All right, thank you everyone for being here. This public regular meeting of the Board of Education for July 7th, 2026 is called to order. All items being considered this evening are posted on the PPS website under the Board and Meetings tab. This meeting is being streamed on PPS YouTube page and will be replayed on channel 28. Again, thank you everyone for being here today. This is technically our first board meeting for the 26-27 school year. Yay! Tonight, we are thrilled that we are going to be joined by our brand new 2026-27 student representative to the board, Rose Sandell. Welcome, Rose.
Welcome, Rose.
Could give you a few minutes here if you wanted to introduce yourself and say a few words. Or not.
Here comes Rose.
If Rose was talking, we didn't hear you. I know she was saying earlier she had some difficulties getting on video. Rose, if you introduced yourself, please try again. Okay, she might be logging off and then logging back in.
Okay.
Technical difficulties. Eddie, you spoke it into existence.
I did.
Yeah, she just messaged me. She's having a hard time unmuting. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, we'll make space for our new student representative when the technology allows her to, and we'll continue on. Again, thank you everyone for being virtual today to accommodate a lot of different schedules and accommodations. So thank you. Tonight we have a few things on our agenda. First, we have our board leadership vote. Then we'll move to public comment, as well as comments from our union partners. And then we have a first reading of a new policy, protecting student access and safe schools policy. Then we have a discussion on the process on adopting new board goals. And then we also have a board discussion and staff response to the suggestions sent to the board for identifying additional areas for reduction. And for the first item, election of board leadership, I'll hand this over to Vice Chair DePass.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Wong.
Goals.
So the first item is the election of the board leadership. In May of 2021, the board adopted a process by which board members could be considered for board leadership positions. The resolution states that in order to be considered for a leadership position, board members must notify the board manager in writing by June 1st if they plan to run for board leadership in the July election rather. At the last meeting in June, both Chair Wong and Director Engelsman stated their desire to be considered for the board chair, and Director Chase Miller stated her desire to be considered for the position of vice chair. There were no other submissions. Ms. Powell, have there been any changes?
Yes, earlier today, Director Engelsman notified me that she was withdrawing her desire to be chair.
Okay, so that means that there's one person, that would be Director Wong, Chair Wong running for the chair, and Director Chase Miller running for the vice chair. So we'll start with the president or the chair. We'll take a voice vote for each of the positions, with each board member stating their vote. The same process will be followed in deciding who will be the next board chair. Do I have a motion and a second to approve Director Wong as board chair? And I will move.
Second.
And Director Chase Miller seconds. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. The board has approved Director Wong as chair of the Portland Public Schools Board of Directors by a vote of 6-0. Congratulations. And we'll move on now to the vote for the board vice chair. Do I have a motion and a second to approve Director Chase Miller as the next board vice chair.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Director Split moves. Director Sullivan seconds the approval of Director Chase Miller as vice chair. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Did I hear from everyone? No.
I didn't hear two people, but Eddie's pretty faint for me, so Jim Wong's pretty faint. So.
It looks like the board has approved Director Chase Miller as the new vice chair of the Portland Public Schools Board of Education with a vote of 6-0.
Can I say something? I didn't know we wouldn't have a chance to say anything.
Sure.
I just want to say that I appreciate Chair Wong's decision to continue in this role. I've said before, and I'll continue to say that I would love to see a world in which we had like succession planning, and we have a little bit of that now where we have somebody who may want to be chair in the future serving as vice chair. But I want to keep that, I hope that keeps going, and that we, while serving for a third year, to me feels like not quite in line with what I want to see. Like, I'd rather see like a more frequent turnover of leadership and less like centralized power among the board members. But I do appreciate him stepping forward, but I hope, just like to put a little finger on the scale for the future, that we'll continue to have changeover that allows for new people to come forward and everybody to have the experience of being in leadership. Like, I will never have the experience of being in leadership, which bums me out. I wish I would have had that chance. But it just didn't work out because that wasn't like the way that we've done things. But I hope in the future it's more of a here everybody gets a turn sort of thing over time. So I'll just put my little plug in. We don't need to spend a bunch of time on it. I hope other people don't feel like they have to respond. I just like really feel strongly about wanting us to move toward that model in the future, and just want to say so again. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Chair Wong, and again, congratulations.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank everyone and for trust me in this. I kind of stepped into this role out of a need, and I think I continue to do so to help the district in the best way I can. And also, I'm really super happy with Director Chase Miller running for vice chair, as so, you know, there's a lot of institutional knowledge involved in this, and having someone here brand new to the board, or sorry, not brand new, but a year into the board, to kind of help pass along a lot of this knowledge. I think it's really important to kind of keep that stability in the district and running, so that we can actually focus more on problem solving rather than problem chasing. And so I want to kind of really recognize that. And I also want to have actually spend most of my time and breath right now is to thank Vice Chair DePass. When I first decided to run for chair, I was a year into the board, kind of where Director Chase Miller is right now, and still felt like I knew nothing about how things worked. And I asked Michelle DePass to run for vice chair to help me through, as someone who has been chair and vice chair before, to help me and kind of hold my hand through a lot of this stuff, because, you know, I was a deer in headlights and didn't know, and she gladly stepped into that role, willingly sacrificed a lot of time and you know, a lot of personal sacrifices to make it happen. And I just want to say really thank you. I think I know this is the last meeting as vice chair for this year, this term, and I guess I just want to say a huge thank you. Your institutional knowledge is how government institutions work, how, you know, from your experience in PPS and also the city, has just unparalleled. And I've really leaned into your expertise and wisdom, and I think it has made me a better person. So I really want to thank you for all your work and dedication to the district and to our students and everybody who works in it. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your kind words. That's really nice. And I never thought that public procurement knowledge would come in handy ever. And it's been invaluable. It's such a different world. It's been also really great serving with you. I think we've been a really good counterpoint to one another. We think very differently, and I think that's the beauty of having two very different people is you end up with results that are a hybrid of good thinking on one hand and good thinking on the other hand, but different. And I appreciate the just shout out on institutional knowledge. I just hope everybody that's still here is like coming in with curiosity because there's still so much to learn. I think years in, there's still something to learn about how to work the system, where the levers are for change, and really like to focus in on, because we're volunteers, like what's really important to focus on. It's literally not everything, but it's definitely some things. And I think it's taken me some years to figure out what those things are. So yeah, it's been really great. I'm really happy to see you and Rochelle work together and building that relationship where you have that tension as well, and looking forward to like really positive results.
Thank you. All right, with that, since I don't have a better way to transition, we'll or words. Sorry, it's online. I'm not used to being online. I haven't been online.
Chair Wong, I see that student Director Rose is back. Did you want to see if she can introduce herself again?
Thank you.
Sorry to jump in.
Yes, Student Representative Rose Sandell, would you like to share a few words if you're able to?
Chair Wong, I see that student.
Hi, yes, I'm back. I just wanted to start with saying that I'm super excited and grateful for this opportunity to represent student voice in PPS. And it's just been a privilege to be trusted with this role. And I'm very committed to this role in representing all students across the district with all the experience I've had in the district, especially because I've been in PPS from elementary school through high school as I'm entering my senior year. And I just feel like education is a very important thing to me, especially because both of my parents are teachers and have worked in PPS. So I have like a firsthand encounter on how educators give our students so much help and trust and hope every single day. And I just hope to support them and our students in the best way possible this year.
Welcome, Rose.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Right now, we'll move to public comment. First, we have general public comment, and if they're students, we'll start with students first. Before we begin, I just want to review our guidelines for public comment. Again, the board wants to thank you for taking your time out of your day to attend this meeting and provide your comments. Public input, especially from our students, really informs and improves our work. We look forward to hearing from you. Some guidelines here. As board members, we are here to listen and not engage in conversation with those who are testifying. Our board office may follow up on board-related issues raised during public testimony. We also request that complaints about individuals be directed to the superintendent's office as a personnel matter. I will also remind PPS staff who are giving public comments that they may not provide testimony about students that could violate confidentiality protections under FERPA. This includes using information that could identify students, especially their school community, by use of direct or indirect linkages such as school, grade, special education, or other status. For materials you'd like the board to receive, please email that to schoolboard@pps.net. When you begin your comments, just please clearly state your name and spell your last name. Ms. Powell, how many people do we have signed up for public comment today?
We have 3 for general public comment, including 1 student, and then we have comments from our union partners.
All right, thank you. Since we only have 3 for public comment, you will have 3 minutes to speak. I believe online there will be a timer. When the timer runs out, please end your last sentence and comments. Again, if you just also a reminder, if you feel like you did not get a chance to finish your comments within the allotted time, you may email the rest of your comments to us at schoolboard@pps.net. So let's start with students. Ms. Powell, can you call up the first student?
Yes, we have Naima Truss, and if you give me a moment, I will pull her in. Yes, we have Naima Truss. And if you give me a moment, I will pull her in.
In the allotted time, you may email the rest of your comments to us at schoolboard@pps.net. So let's start with students.
She should be in the meeting now.
Yes. Hi, Naima. Whenever you're ready, you may start. Thank you for being here.
Hello, my name is Naima Trust, and today is my 9th birthday. I am spending my birthday asking the school board to reconsider these budget cuts that will impact students. Electives and specials will be cut. Class sizes will be huge. 87 teachers like my mom taught here to us will be laid off. I am spending my birthday as part of my community. My teachers make me feel safe, respected, and supported. I don't want my teachers to get fired. Please listen to students and teachers. I don't want to be here again on my 10th birthday, asking the board to reconsider these budget cuts that will affect me in the classroom. Please grant my birthday wish.
Thank you. You did really well. Thank you for for talking today and giving us your input. Ms. Powell, can you call the next person?
Yes, next is Diana Riley, who I'm pulling in right now.
Hello, everyone. Shall I begin?
Yes, you may begin when you're ready.
Great, thank you. I'm Diane Riley, R-I-L-E-Y, and I use she, her pronouns. First, I want to express my gratitude for being able to present before you today, and to feel reassured that, our comments are recorded. I know this is a common democratic process, but given the current political climate, I no longer take these sort of processes for granted. So thank you for hearing me today. I come here as a parent of a Portland Public School student. He's 12 years old, attends Sunnyside Environmental School, and his teacher was part of recent layoffs. Following my 12-year-old's experience in 6th grade this past school year is how I came to witness the teaching excellence that is regularly available to Sunnyside students, and I presume to all Portland Public School students. And this too, I did not and do not take for granted. Notoriously low pay for teachers across the nation and exceptionally hard times since COVID pandemic means that it is a rare and wonderful person who has moved to step up and support our children through the school year and the many challenges that confront our kids daily. I had hoped that COVID had taught us, as a society, the value and critical nature of frontline essential workers like teachers, like, excuse me, like healthcare workers, and like so many others. But sadly, if we have learned this lesson the hard way, we certainly have not learned how to direct our hard-earned tax dollars towards the needed alignment with our values. During the last regular board meeting, I submitted written testimony, and I am back today to let you know that I intend to follow up with a steady flow of activism and advocacy in order to push for positive change for public school funding. Over the past few weeks, I have found local and national organizing efforts that work toward equitable, full funding of our public schools. Just today, I signed up for a training, meetings, and ongoing communication. I want to thank the previous speaker for also stepping up to talk about this issue and also to have an extra minute. Let me squeeze this in. It's really delightful to have practice to cram all my time into 2 minutes, and and to have the luxury of an extra minute. So, but I do invite you and everyone listening to join me in turning things around for our children and our school district. And I think we can do that if we work together. I respect your leadership. I respect the staff. I respect the people who have really, spent so much time trying to crack the nut of, governing our school district. And I want us to work together, but I want us to take seriously this issue of school funding. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the time to provide your comments today. It's very appreciated. Ms. Powell, can you call the next person?
Yes, Emery Oding.
Yes, that's right. Let's see if I can. Okay. Hi, my name is Emery Oding, and my last name is spelled Oeding, and I use she, her pronouns. So thank you all very much for the opportunity to address you all, and thank you for your hard and critical work for PPS. I've been a PPS school counselor for 9 years, and I'm the parent of 3 children who attended PPS school kindergarten through 12th grade. I want to share 2 concerns I have about access to services of the PPS Clothing Center. So the PPS Clothing Center is a donation-funded and entirely volunteer-run program that provides free clothing, underwear, coats, shoes, and backpacks to pre-K through 12th grade students in our district, and has done so since 1964. It serves a critical function, supporting attendance and a sense of belonging at school, especially among vulnerable student populations. On June 2nd, I received a call from Sharon May Chang, the volunteer who runs the clothing center. She was following up on a clothing request for one of my students, and she shared with me that for the 26-27 school year, the clothing center is experiencing about a 50% reduction in their space at Marshall campus, where they've been for very many years, as well as a decision not to allow the PPS families who visit the clothing center to use restrooms there, and a suggestion that the clothing center instead rent a portable restroom, a porta potty. The lack of access to an indoor restroom to families while visiting the clothing center is a serious issue of health, respect, and equity. The people who access the clothing center are our PPS families who have been referred by PPS school counselors and social workers. They are not strangers. Many of them visit with young children, and some have mobility or health issues, and not allowing them to use an indoor restroom is not safe, nor healthy, nor does it send a message of welcome and inclusion to families that are often marginalized in other ways. The clothing center's previous space was already overcrowded. In its current smaller space, it will not have as much inventory on hand and therefore will not be able to provide families with as much clothing. For example, instead of receiving a few pairs of pants, they will receive 1 pair. Some families travel a long distance, often on public transportation, to reach the clothing center, and we'd like to make their trip worthwhile by providing a reasonable amount of clothing. So I'm just here to advocate for support for this program. As a school counselor, I've referred countless students and families to it. It's a bargain for PPS, and it really does serve an important function. So to give them adequate space and an adequate indoor restroom just seems like a huge bang for literally like no bucks. So I encourage the board to do what you can. I know that there's been some internal advocacy that has not been effective yet. And I did email you about this yesterday, and I'm trying to engage more PPS school counselors and social workers who are all resting right now, but to help with this advocacy. So thank you so much for listening and for your time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you too for taking the time to bring this to our attention. All right, next up we have comments from our union partners. I believe we have the new PAT president, Alicia Chavez, today, right? Signed up?
Yes, I'm just bringing her in right now.
While Alicia's coming on, just a heads up that I have no control over my video and it's just like going in and out. So just, I'm sorry, and just wanted to give people a heads up that it's not being disrespectful and leaving and coming and going. It just comes on and off at will. So my apologies.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
How
Thanks
are
for
you
being here.
all? Yeah, thank you.
You have the floor, so
Thanks. Good evening, Chair Wong, Vice Chair DePass, newly elected Vice Chair Chase Miller, Student Representative Sandal, and Dr. Armstrong, and the lovely members of the PPS School Board. First, I want to start the way that our former PAT President, Angela Bonilla, started often, and she started with some kudos. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to meet this week. It was really great to be in space and community with you all. We missed you, Stephanie. I don't know if Stephanie's here, but I know that we'll meet soon. But more importantly, I want to thank you all for listening and engaging in conversations with myself and our PAC leadership. And I want to ask that we keep doing that, listening to educators early, ask us direct questions, and bring us into the conversations before decisions are made. It can't be just a one-time gesture. It has to be part of how we work together. So as you all know, my name is Alicia Chavez. I'm totally honored to be here for the first time as the president of the Portland Association of Teachers. I became a teacher for many reasons, but more importantly, because I was a Head Start kid and someone whose life was changed through public education. And I stepped into this role as PAT president because I believe that our educators deserve a strong voice. Like each of you, I was elected by a community. Educators entrusted me with the responsibility of advocating for them, just as Portland voters entrusted you all for leading this district and making decisions that impact our students every single day. And while our roles are completely different, I hope we can remember that we're here for the same reason, and that reason is our students. When we met this week, there was one common theme that I heard from each of you. And what that theme was is that I heard several of you talk about wanting to work as a team and do what's best for kids. And that's what I would hope for a school board. And I believe that that's possible. It means putting personal differences aside, being willing to have really hard conversations, and building a genuine partnership with educators. And I'll repeat what I said in those meetings, that when questions come up about what's happening in our schools, I encourage you to come to us. Lean on educators, ask us what we're seeing. We are the people who greet students every morning, celebrate their successes, help them through their toughest days, and understand the realities of our classrooms because we live them every single day. So, as you all have experienced, this past year asked a lot of everybody. Our students experienced mid-year furlough days that disrupted learning, and it left many people feeling really discouraged and sad. We also had 87 of our colleagues that received layoff notices. And behind that number are educators who've built beautiful and lasting relationships with students. They supported families and dedicated themselves to this district, PPS. And as I hope you all know, those losses aren't just positions, they're people. And when I see those, I see every single name. And they're going to be deeply missed in our school communities, and we're really going to feel it. Educators have been asked to carry that uncertainty. They're going to be asked to do more with less, and they're going to be asked to continue showing up for students with compassion and professionalism despite everything that's going on. And they will do that, and they have done that because they love this work and they love their students. And my hope for you all as a board is that you don't accept those layoffs as inevitable. I hope this board continues to look for every opportunity, look under every rock, every couch cushion, anything that saves money, break some piggy banks, to bring those educators back, because our students deserve that stability, care, and the support that educators provide every single day. Even if it's just one educator, that matters. And I would hope and advocate for more, but anything really makes a difference in our schools. And I know this year won't be easy either. We'll be fighting together for school funding, putting some pressure on our state. We need fully funded schools for our students. And we'll be having some difficult conversations about what right sizing might look like for PPS, and centering the most impacted in those conversations. And we will also be entering our successor bargain in January. So get ready for that. So that's a lot of things, right? But it's also an opportunity for us to do things differently. It's an opportunity to build trust, to collaborate, and strengthen what partnership can really look like between teachers and the PPS school board. And you have the opportunity to show educators that their voices are valued and not just heard. And I could say that PAT is ready to be a partner in the work. And I look forward to seeing how this board shows up for educators. Because when we truly work together, our students are the ones that benefit the most. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, President
Thanks,
Shaw.
Alicia.
I really appreciate the time you took today to be here. I just also want to say publicly out loud, as chair for another year, in our meeting yesterday, I made the promise that, well, I guess the issue that came up was that I see the board, I see the district working really hard to try to improve things for our teachers, yet we still hear from teachers that feel like they are not being heard and they're not being asked the question of what they need in order to be successful. And I heard that loud and clear. And one of the commitments that I made in our meeting yesterday was that I would be, obviously there's some kind of communication breakdown or something's not being effective. So one of the promises I made was to meet more often and more, and helping to create that collaboration, to hear what teachers need, to see what kind of creative solutions that we can come up together and enable our employees to help problem solve, especially in this time of budget crisis. We really need a lot of creative thinking, and whatever we can do to make things easier in the classroom, so that teachers can be more effective, that is probably my number one goal. And
I want to say something too. I just met with you this afternoon, Alicia, and really appreciated the time just to sit down, kind of unscheduled and very candid, and be able to talk with you. I also made a commitment to listen more, if not necessarily to agree with everything, but to be a thought partner in the work, and to commit to listening, and kind of reducing some of that us versus them dynamic that actually, like, our leaders at the state capitol and maybe even beyond want us fighting each other. It doesn't work. It's not as effective. And so I'm also committed to doing what I can to work with you and your members to the extent that I can, even if I might not agree. And I hope that that's okay to carry that tension throughout the rest of the year.
Great, thank you. I know that both Vice Chair DePass and I have spoken. If anybody else have, because we are online and we don't have buttons or eye contact we can make right now, if you have anything you want to, anytime you want to jump in, just raise your hand. I'll make sure I keep an eye on that. Director Sullivan.
Yeah, I would just like to say I really appreciated the invitation to come and talk to everybody. It felt really like an honest conversation. Nobody trying to, win or anything. So I really appreciated it, and thank you for having us.
Director LaForte.
Yes, I will. My fourth thing that I thoroughly enjoyed my time meeting with our educational leaders and probably overstayed as well. So I just want to thank them for the time, and I am looking forward to making this a regular monthly visit.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And sorry, I'm just orienting myself. I believe next we have the first reading of our policy, protecting student access and safe schools policy. I'll hand this over to Vice Chair DePass to introduce this item.
Sure. So this is the first reading of a policy that's being a little bit fast tracked because it needs to meet a deadline of, I believe, September 1st. This was a policy that aligns, and I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared to speak to it tonight, but it aligns with state law around protecting students' information and some of our sanctuary policies. The Mr. Fernandez from the Racial Equity Department came and presented to the policy committee last month. The policy committee, all three of us said, let's go ahead and put it to the full board. That's what we're doing tonight. Tonight's a first reading. We'll have a second reading at our next meeting, or our first meeting, I should say, in August. And again, it's protecting students. It's aligning with the state's laws around protecting the students that are in our care. I don't know if we have staff available. This is awkward, but remember we met online for 18 months.
Director Sullivan?
Yeah, it was mentioned quite a bit. The PPS Immigration Enforcement Toolkit was mentioned in the policy, and I just wondered if we could get access to that. I was just curious about what was in it.
So I'm sorry, you're asking for what, Director Sullivan?
The toolkit, I think it's called Portland Public Schools Immigration Enforcement Toolkit. And they mentioned using that quite a bit in the policy. And I just wondered.
You'd like to see a copy of that?
Yeah.
I agreed. I think that's great. So anyway, the draft policy, going back to my script now, is that's protecting student access in safe schools. It's being brought forward tonight for first reading, following the policy committee's review, recommendation to forward to the full board. And the purpose is really to establish a clear district-wide framework for protecting student access to education, ensuring safe and supportive school environments, and aligning PPS practices with newly enacted Oregon law related to immigration enforcement. The draft policy aligns with Oregon Laws 2026 SB 1538 and Oregon Laws 2026 HB 4079. 4079 requires that school districts adopt conforming policies by September 30th of this year. SB 1538 requires Oregon school districts adopt policies and procedures related to immigration enforcement interactions, student privacy protections, staff training, access to education, regardless of immigration status, and non-discrimination protections connected to immigration status. Additionally, HB 4079 establishes requirements related to notification procedures when federal immigration authorities are present on or near school property for immigration enforcement purposes. And we saw this earlier this year. The draft policy incorporates both of those statutory requirements. It's important to note that PPS began developing guidance in 2019. And in this past year, PPS has significantly expanded and refined guidance, protocols, communication tools, safety procedures, and community response resources related to immigration enforcement scenarios and student safety. So again, tonight is the first reading of this policy. It was 100% supported by the policy committee, and we're hoping for a quick turnaround because it needs to meet a September 2026 deadline.
Dr. Adams, and then to Director Split.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to note that as Director DePass shared, we are ahead of the curve here. We already had lots of things in place, including our toolkit, that allow us to be in compliance with this new law and regulation requiring a policy, and that we would be happy to share our toolkit with board members, so that's not a problem.
Try my video out and you guys can watch me go away. Oh, there we go.
Just went
Okay.
away.
Yeah, a girl can try. Anyway, the best part is it just comes on and off willy-nilly. I just had a question more, and I don't know if it's for Dr. Adams or for, I don't know who the question's for, but I'm one, grateful that the legislature decided to make sure that other districts are doing what PPS and other school districts are already doing to protect kids, making sure that's statewide. And I'm glad we're ahead of the curve. And I'm glad we're doing everything to get into compliance on time. It sure is a tight turnaround to have a bill pass in February or March and have to be implemented by September. So thanks everybody for making that happen. And feel for those districts that didn't start from already a good place. But I am just curious what enforcement mechanism there is. Do we have to do reporting on what we're doing, or are they gonna want to see our policy, or is it more of complaint driven? Does anybody know what the enforcement in the state law is on this upon districts? I'm just curious. And if you don't know the answer, we can get back at the second reading. That's just fine, because it's a curiosity, not something I need to know to evaluate the policy.
Thank you, Director Split. Let us look into that. It is not my current understanding that we need to do anything other than to have our policy in place. But of course, because we're ahead, we might be able to do some early reporting that would be helpful. But let me look into that and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, just at the second reading conversation is totally fine. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you hearing me out on asking that.
Great, thank you. All right, the proposed policy will be posted on the board website. The public comment period is a minimum of 21 days. Contact information for public comment will be posted with the policy. The board expects to hold a second reading, which is also the time we take a vote on the policy, on August 4th. Any other questions before we move on? I just want to highlight, thank you for Dr. Adams for speaking to it. I know that we had a lot of things already in place, as well as policies that protect status. It's nice to have a policy to have it all in one place too. So thank you. I also want to mention that PAT President Chavez was kicked out as a panelist before she could thank everyone for their willingness to work together, and really appreciates that. So I just want to share that. She shared that with me, and yes, I thank you very much. All right, next up, we have a discussion on budget Q&A. So on June 23rd, the board adopted the budget for the 26-27 school year. Since then, we've heard from several members of the Portland Association of Teachers who sent in suggestions to create savings that this could help identify additional areas for reduction. I've also asked Dr. Armstrong to respond to these suggestions, as I am aware that the district over the past several months has turned over many stones, has looked for efficiencies, as well as sacrifice in the central office to preserve as many student-facing positions as possible. So with that, I'll hand this over to Dr. Armstrong to introduce and start the discussion or question and answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chair Wong. So following that board meeting, I sent a written response to the board addressing the key areas that came up. And it was then requested that we have this conversation in a public meeting, which makes a lot of sense because Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
folks
Thank
have
you,
many
Chair
of the
Wong.
same questions.
So following
And so we
that
have our Chief
board
Financial
meeting,
Officer
I sent a written
who
response to the
has
board
taken those
addressing
responses
the key areas that
and
came up,
put it
and
into
it was then
a presentation
requested
just to talk
that
through
we
each
have
of
this
them.
conversation in
So
a
with
public
that,
meeting,
I
which
am
makes
going
a
to
lot
turn
of
it over
sense
to Chief
because
Financial.
yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
folks
Thank
have
you,
many
Chair
of the
Wong.
same
And then
questions.
so following
And so we have our
that
Chief
board
Financial
meeting, I
Officer
sent a written
who
response
has
to the board
taken those
addressing
responses
the key areas that
and
came up,
put it
and
into
it was then
a presentation
requested
just to talk
that
through each of
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
folks.
Yes. Oh, thank
Yes,
you.
we can.
I've been viewing the whole time and just really excited to be in the space with you guys. I usually get a front row seat. So this is amazing. Thank you, Dr. Armstrong. And thank you all for your amazing questions. I haven't prepared a presentation, and I'm, of course, available to answer questions at any time. But I can go over some of the things that came up so that we can get them on the public record, if that would be helpful.
Well, okay, thank you. I'm sorry if I misspoke, Chief Morrison. Were we just going to go over the responses that I provided to the board and you were adding additional context, or were you just going to add additional context to each one and then we open for questions?
Yeah, I'm at your service, Dr. Armstrong. So I am happy to support the information that you've already shared. I don't know that there's additional information, and I have not prepared slides for tonight.
Okay.
So
sorry, that was my misunderstanding. Well, what would be helpful to the board? Would you like us to go through each of the responses? Maybe Chief Morrison can speak to each of them as a review, or would you like to just go straight to question and answer?
I'm sorry, I should have raised my hand first, but I think it would be good for us just to summarize the suggestions that we heard and the responses, just so that's public knowledge, versus just something that board members have seen. That's my preference, barring any strong disagreement. I just prefer that we put it on the table so people know, and maybe as we handle each one, we could see if people have questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And then
But
I see
Director Sullivan has better manners than me, so maybe she should be the one to decide this.
Well, I'm pretty much saying exactly what you said, because when I saw these, ideas, I got very excited and sent them in, to the powers that be saying, these sound great. Can we do anything about it? And then got the answers, which we've done a lot about it already. But I think everybody needs to know that. So I agree with you, Christy. We need to share our knowledge. Sent them in, to the powers that be saying, these sound great. Can we do anything about
Michelle,
it?
would you, Chief Morrison, would you like to go through we pause after each one, or did you want me to kick it off?
Yeah, no, I'm prepared. I thought that these were excellent suggestions and great thinking, and I'm so grateful that we have thought along the same lines. And so let me go ahead and get started. I'll give each question and then a summary of the response, and then pause for questions, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we had our first comment question was regarding the $39 million in committed funds that were identified in the annual financial report for the fiscal year 24-25. So that's where we landed as we entered the 25-26 fiscal year. And as we looked into that, we recognized that 23 million of that was already allocated as the PERS reserve into the 25-26 budget. And the remainder was in our capital projects fund. And so we had planned on some carryover from, or we accounted for carryover from the 24-25 year in the annual financial report. So for the general fund, there weren't any surplus available, which we as a financial team were looking for as we closed the fiscal year for 24-25. So that's first out there. I know that that report can be a little bit difficult to navigate. So happy to spend more time on that report specifically. There was a question about any accessing of the.
Oh, I think we were gonna, is that all the same? Because we were gonna pause after each one to see what question.
It's kind of all the same response.
Okay. Go
So
ahead.
the other response was accessing any level of reserves, and the board can do that by resolution if the reserves are available in the current fiscal year. And so at the June 23rd meeting, we authorized that as an amendment to the 25-26 budget as we reconciled that year moving forward, and could choose to do it again for 26-27. But accessing reserves at this time would result in our, based on our current financial information, of less than 5% minimum fund balance. I'll pause there.
Were there any questions to that one, or is that one pretty straightforward?
I feel like that's pretty straightforward because some years ago, the board spent down the reserves to like a floor of 5%. And I think what I heard Chief Morrison say is that if we dig into that, that brings us below that 5% threshold. I also asked in our last meeting, how long would that reserve hold us over for? And it's less than a month of operating expenses. So it's the 5%, yes, that we voted on. We could make a resolution to go all the way down to nothing, and that would leave us with zero if there's an ice storm or something. And also, I think we also heard that it would affect our credit rating.
I'd also like to inject there that it also would impact our cash flows. The multiple major state and federal grants that we have they operate on a reimbursement basis, which means we have to expend the funds and then request them. And so that's a whole nother layer of cash flow concern that we have when we dip below a 5% fund balance or contingency.
And then sorry, I was just going to say, and then just to clarify, we pulled out the 3 terms and really explained, right? So I just would want to state that, right? So for clarity, contingency is the budget line that represents unappropriated funds and is tied to the 5% minimum fund balance required by board policy. And then the fund balance is the final unspent amount after the close of the fiscal year and becomes a revenue source for the next year, right? And then reserves are separate funds set aside for a specific purpose. And sometimes we hear those used in different ways. And so really just wanted to clarify those 3 terms that you've heard over this past year.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong.
Okay, well then I think moving to the second one, I think the second recommendation that came forth was review and reduce non-bond funded contracts by 7 to 10%.
Thank you. Yes, that effort began as part of the spending freeze initiated in the spring of 2025. So as a new chief financial officer to our superintendent, I recognized that we needed to make some immediate changes and implemented a spending freeze. And in that was a 24-25 spending freeze that has carried forward through 25-26. And that requires all of our budget holders to have an extremely critical eye on all of our contracts. And I review them as well, which is another layer of assessment to determine, you know, as a system-wide, how appropriate is this contract and expenditure, because we're really focused on the information that we've provided you. And so that's been in place. And there are 2 strategies. So we're negotiating reduction in costs. I would give an example that our student transportation services, specifically as we entered into a mid-year budget reduction this year, we got back to the table with them and we talked to them about the fixed costs that were going to be charged over the 3 furlough days that our students were experiencing, and we were able to come to terms with them and negotiate that down. So we're doing that with all of our partners, but also our budget holders, they're making decisions. They are highly qualified in their roles, and they are highly accountable for the impact of the dollars that they're spending. And so they are targeting them to what they believe is the most impactful services that we can get for our students. And so those things are both happening, and we're monitoring all the time for all of our funds, not just general fund.
And one thing I'll say before we open up for questions is, as I've heard contracts come up a lot, and when you think of like our total budget as a school system and the amount of funds that we have coming in, and then you look at contracts, there are definitely some pretty big numbers that can be alarming to folks who don't have all the information. And so I think our goal is to provide as much information as possible. Like, for instance, we have a multi-million-dollar fund from the Wallace Foundation. Next year this current year actually is its last year, and there are some restrictions with it. We're not able to pay stipends, hire staff with it, and there are some explicit directions on how to use those funds. And we have other fund categories that are similar to that. And so I think it would be helpful as we move forward, as I've been talking with the team, is like naming some of the funds that lead to some contracts, especially when they're on the larger side, so that people like understand how those funds are being spent, and what the restrictions are with it. And so that is something that I'm looking forward to bringing greater clarity this year.
I have Director Lefort and then Director Split after.
Sorry, I'm like click, click, click. So regarding the contracts, there are a significant number of contracts that not to exceed multi-year contracts that run over like 5 years. And that practice seems to have started under Superintendent Guerrero. And what happens is a board from, say, 2024, 2023, whenever, has approved this large number. Some of these are millions of dollars over 5 years, and the individual annual contracts don't come back to this board for any sort of approval. So I know as a board member, I experienced some frustration because I don't have visibility to what those costs are every year, nor did I have anything to do with approving them. So I'm wondering, and I sense that that is also, in terms of transparency, some of the frustration we're hearing from those that are critical of our personal services contracts. And I think it's a fair criticism. So I'm wondering if there's a way to bring those contracts back annually, I guess it would be each June, to the current board to review and approve.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Just getting clarification, because our not to exceed are typically those high dollar amounts that are tied to construction. And I believe what I heard, I remember my time with Dan, is the amount of work that's happening, and then just for efficiency. The personal services contract, I'm not aware of contracts that we have that's not to exceed that wouldn't go back to the board. I mean, I think it's such a rigorous process. I mean, and I am happy to be wrong. If Sharon Tancre, if one of you want to correct me, I think maybe it could be for like larger categories like legal services, but like when I think of work in individual departments, like when I think of consultants for professional services, there isn't just a dollar amount that they just continue to be under. Like, as a matter of fact, if there's changes that are greater than what the board voted on, we bring that back to the board. So I mean, I hear you, and we can definitely bring forth more information, but at this point, I'm not able to recall anything outside of whether it's legal, like lawsuits and things like that, or
Maybe I'm not understanding it correctly because I know that the last batch for the ResJ contracts ran, looks like from 2024 to 2029. And they don't come back each year for board approval from what I understand.
yeah, that
Not saying you
change.
wouldn't approve them, but we don't see them.
May I interject, Dr. Armstrong?
Yes, please.
Yes, one of the things I am have been working on to include with the monthly financial report is a report that shows you what the contract was approved for and then the amount spent to date. So you can watch the cadence of that. It really is metered very closely by need. And our budget holder, the folks we pay to be in charge of this work, they determine when and if those services are needed. And so even though there's a higher level authorization for the board, multi-year, there needs to be better visibility for you into what is actually occurring, because that is within their budget allowance, right? They are making that determination as the best way to conduct their services. So I think through my financial reporting, I can help support that and address that concern. Just know that there is always somebody answering to that invoice that comes in that's paid, and that it's within a department budget allocation. It's not just a carte blanche, this is the contract and we're going to pay this amount over 5 years. That's really not necessarily how it works. So I'd love to spend more time exploring that with you.
So then why do we not just renegotiate them every year then? Why do we do these 5-year windows if we're actually renegotiating it every year? I'm just curious.
There's two reasons. One, I think that's a kind of an administrative burden. And I'm thinking about especially our transportation, our student transportation contracts in particular, that it's an administrative burden, but also we are going to use up to that amount. That's the maximum amount that we would ever use within the budget allowed for that item. So there's this, this veil between what management is deciding to do within their authorization and what you guys are receiving as reporting. So I think it removes an administrative burden. It authorizes staff to make decisions over the course of that contract period. And also there's usually a pricing lock or guarantee if we can agree in a contract for a longer period of time, right? So that, for example, let's use our great partner, First Student. If they have us in a 5-year agreement, they know that they can count on us for 5 years of service. And so they will likely work with us in terms of pricing. So that's all part of the consideration, especially with our licensing agreements as well that are coming up. So
yeah, I was going to say, you see that with curriculum and other licensing, right, too. So not necessarily personal services. So I think it may start with identifying what category you're most interested in, Virginia, and Director LaForte, unless you're saying like any contract category that has a not to exceed over multiple years, then we can have that conversation as well.
That would be great. And then Michelle, you're thinking there's a way of calling this out in the monthly reporting?
Yes, we have the ability to track like spend against a current contract or a current purchase order. So that information, our financial system is not easy to extract information out of, but I've been working with my team in technology to see if we can do that, to add a supplement to the monthly report that would show you guys where we are in spending against that contract. This was a topic that really came up heavily with our DCU negotiations, because we had large multi-year HVAC, for example, or grounds contracts, but they're really meant to support us in the event of an emergency. If something major comes up, that we have somebody that we can call and respond right away, and that we know how much they would charge us for that work. So I do think there's a lot of information about that we can share.
I think that would be really useful. And then the savings that have been discovered thus far, is there a possibility that we could have a recap of those savings, since we just don't have visibility because we can't look at last year's contract? We can't go back in a board book, pull last year's versus this year's when they're on these large multi-year deals. Like right now, certain contracts we get, I could go look at last year's by just going through the archives versus
yeah, I think it's important to
certainly.
separate.
I'm sorry. Let me just. I think we can certainly take the questions and some of the things that you all have, individual items and wishes, and then we can take that to board leadership and figure out how best to communicate that, if it's an agenda item, if it's an information item, or what that may look like.
That's all for me. I think I've taken up enough time on this one.
And next 6. Oh, sorry. I should probably wait till Chair Wong calls on me.
I
Do you
did,
wanna
but I think I pressed the mute button too fast on myself. So sorry.
Okay.
Dr. Split.
My camera's working for a second. It's very exciting. Just like came on right before I was going to talk. I just wanted to continue to just share a general concern that it's hard to understand contracts and how much they cost, and it creates a sense of like when something's opaque, then it seems like it's potentially problematic. And I understand that maybe looking forward is kind of what we've been talking a lot about, is like current state or what happens going forward. One thing we could do to shine a light would be to like give an example of like the past year, or even like maybe 2 years ago, since the books are closed on that at this point. And that might be a helpful way to provide some transparency. Here's how much we spent on contracts. Here's what we spent it on. And rather than having to consider that upper limit over the course of the life of a contract as like the amount, it might be helpful to just have a way of looking back, or like an experience of us together looking back at what those costs were over the course of a year. I think probably a lot of us have concerns that we may be continuing to invest in contracts for services that are valuable, but maybe not as valuable as educators in our classrooms. And so I think I'm pretty committed to at least helping to shine that light between what Superintendent Armstrong and Chief Morrison and Director LaForte just talked about. That's more like what's happening now and like what's going to happen in the future with those contracts, but just give like some education looking back to help understand what those impacts are, and also help, I think, alleviate the concern we're hearing from the public, who we know and we hear about the bond contracts being so big, and that's why contracting is increasing so much. But again, if it's hard to like understand and dig into it and really feel like you can wrap your arms around it, it's easy to just kind of believe that big number and like those biggest possible numbers. And it might be the case that if we do look back, we do see some things, or it might just be that it helps provide comfort that we're not overspending on professional services, and that we all kind of agree that where we are spending on contracts is more important than educators in classrooms. So more of a pitch on an idea and just wanting us to all have a better understanding of where that money is going, and really help others have a better understanding, I think would be really great.
I appreciate that, Director Split. I think what I would say to that is that we do have some amounts that are significant, and that does impact other things that we're able to do So when Chief Morrison said that like the negotiations of contracts that we've had is something that we've been pursuing or that we're actively in the midst of, is to counter that. I wouldn't say there's nothing more important than a classroom staffed with an educator and a support staff when appropriate, where appropriate. Nothing is more important to that. And we still have school kids that we need to transport across the district, both required, mandatory, and other things that we've opted in to do. So if we were to look at, on average, about 100 million in contracts, that's a big, scary number. Half of that is transportation. Right. And then the other, when we think of like the upkeeps of the buildings and the maintenance and the other groups that come in with specialized expertise to make sure that our 100-year-old buildings are functioning, is where that's at. Right. And then when we begin to look at other areas, because our general fund isn't where we want it to be at all, we have to rely on like grants and other like student investment account and other places where we can access funds to do some of the work that we need to do. And that doesn't mean, go straight to personal services or contracts. I think what I hear though is just a need for us to maybe even spend some, I know it's not my place to say what should be a work session, but I would welcome the opportunity to just have a work session just on contracts so that we can talk about what are all the categories, the funding categories, and then how are we using those funds. And like Chief Morrison said, we can provide information on the spin down on some of those contracts, where we're at in terms of negotiations and things like that.
I personally, I also don't decide what's on work sessions, but I would love for that to be something we talk about. I really just want to, like, everything you said makes so much sense to me, but I think until people see it like in print and like backed up with numbers, they're going to continue to have concerns. And so I just really want to join a call for shining light on it. And in the end, I will probably all here have the same takeaway. But, I want to give room for a different takeaway, but mostly I just think it's really important to just have that conversation and share materials that can, in an understandable way for the public, for educators, the ones that are really talking a lot about this, to feel more comfortable. Or not, maybe. All right,
Director Split, thank you so much. I just want to interject in this meeting that just a separation between Presidio and our bond projects and our classrooms. They're very different, and not that we're not highly ultra accountable for both, but they're not fungible. So I just want to make sure we keep those very separate.
Yep, I agree. And but that's part of what I think, showing people that separation visibly, and something they could pick up and hold if they printed it, I think would be really helpful. And thank you for helping to put that together when the time is right. Appreciate it. And sorry, my camera turned off. That wasn't personal. That was just whatever the heck is happening with my camera. All right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, before I move to Vice Chair Pass, I just want to add something to what Director Split's direction was going. I think maybe one suggestion to help make the contract language more accessible, especially like in our resolution and our the summaries, is maybe put in a, because all the stuff that comes to us in the board books comes in a template, but maybe add in the template what the codes mean. Like 400s means like bond funded or capital projects, 100, 200, because I think that sometimes it gets lost when people look at the numbers, they don't know where that money is coming from. So I think that would help a lot in terms of the public understanding it. Okay, I'll hand this over to Vice Chair Pass and then Director LaForte after.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wong. So I just heard like early on, like, Guerrero made this 5-year thing. But contracts, as far as I know, like contracts that I've worked with sometimes do go for 3 years or 5 years. And that's because, let's say if you're building a bridge or a courthouse, it doesn't fall like neatly within a calendar year. And so in order to guarantee the plumbers and some of the different divisions of work on a contract, on a construction project you carried over for many years. That also guarantees a certain price that, with escalation, you pass a bond and then like 3 years later, 4 years later, you're breaking ground. The 5-year allows you to kind of keep costs to what you agreed on 5 years ago. So to address the escalation, the scope, schedule, and budget are all kind of set, and then that 5-year or 3 years sometimes allows you to kind of maintain the scope of work and the budget. Most importantly, the price guarantee is real, especially when you're talking about things like steel and things that are volatile going into construction projects. I love that we have talked about a work session on contracts. I think that would be really important. And I don't know how far back we want to go, but I think it might be important for everyone to kind of understand what's currently in play, maybe a little bit beforehand, what's in play previous, and then what we're looking at, and be able to see that, maybe visually if possible. I think that bar graphs or really important. So we understand, I think, to Chief Morrison's point about kind of where we are in the spend cycle. So yeah, I love the idea of a work session on contracts. I also I'm really going to bring this home this year about the opportunity cost of going back several years. I think it can be valuable to go back several years. I also think that because we have fewer staff to do we can't really direct staff to do lots of work, that we need to really understand what the opportunity costs of every single one of our decisions is, to look back at things and look how far back we look. So I guess I'm saying, yes to understanding contracts better, and yes to understanding like why we would do a 5-year contract, because it might not make sense unless you look at doing something structural with steel and the cost is going to go up. It might even double. And so some of the reasons that we have a 5-year or a 3-year contract is to do the best you can with public dollars, and that's to be as fiscally kind of conservative as possible. Knowing that things, especially steel, let's say, go up in price. Anyway, my other question is, if we have contracts that have already been signed, can we midstream change those, or can we change them with no repercussions? I guess is a question I have. It doesn't need to be answered tonight, but I'm curious if we can just we're just going to change the terms on you.
I'm going to have
our economize. Can we do that?
Yeah, I'll have our general counsel answer that.
Sure. And no, if we have a contract, you can't unilaterally change it. The question, it would have to be one of negotiations between the parties to determine whether or not the other party would mutually agree. So we can't, the short answer is no, you cannot unilaterally change the contracts we enter into.
Thank you. Because then should we spend our money trying to look at changing contracts, or should we just moving forward be very mindful of the term that we're talking about, whether it's 3 years or 5 years? If we can't do anything about the 5-year contracts that we already have in place, can we, looking forward to the future, start to look at, maybe we have shorter terms, or that we weigh those decisions very carefully? If it's a 5-year that has escalating costs on certain materials, that it makes sense to sign something for 5 years. If it's something like sheetrock or maybe lumber that doesn't have the extreme escalation, then we make the choice to only do a 1 or 2 year contract. Does that make sense? That we can, on a case-by-case basis, enter into a contract based on what the escalation is for that particular item. And there's a blue book that has a cost of escalation that's put out every year. So we know if steel will double, for instance. We know if sheetrock will go up by 20%.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that probably speaks to what Chief Morrison was saying about contract negotiations or renegotiating some of those contracts as terms come up, and when it's within the language, to be able to do so within that contract. But sorry, go ahead, Chief Tancred.
I was essentially going to say the same thing, which is already said. I don't need to repeat it. You didn't need me.
sorry, before I call on Director LaForte, I just kind of want a quick reminder. We are kind of close on time. I heard a couple calls for a work session on contracts. And so since we had more than 2 people, and I also agree, we can go ahead and put that in the calendar. And I'll work with district leadership to figure out when that would be appropriate, when that would be the most helpful. Knowing that, sorry, Director LaForte, I know this, just because this is your second turn, I just want to check to make sure after I call on you, if everyone else, I just want to ensure that everyone else has an opportunity to speak. So go ahead, Director LaForte.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that I'm not talking about contracts for goods. I'm talking about contracts for services, and they do come up every year, but the resolutions have come in front of the board as a not to exceed. So basically the board approves this total amount for 5 years and then agrees by signing off on this resolution to never see these contracts again, even when they are renegotiated annually. I'm saying I think it would be smart for us to have visibility for it because that's part of the frustration I'm hearing from the community. And I'll send this to you all, but the city of Portland does an incredible job. I've sent this to staff. They use a program called QuickBase. Director DePass, you're probably familiar with it since you work for the city. It is essentially a checkbook. It's a check register of every check that the city of Portland is cut to anyone that is searchable, and it's broken down by fund. So I just pulled up Portland Public Schools and I can see every payment that was made to PPS and whether it came out of their general fund, their technology services fund, their school charge CET, the excise tax. Having something be that visible for the public would be fantastic, and for the board, because it would definitely ease the administrative burden. It would save me from asking a lot of questions because I can just go look, and it's public facing. So I'm going to resend that to not just to staff, but to the full board to take a look at before we have that work session.
Chief Morrison.
Thank you. Yeah, I did want to respond to that. I also thought that was pretty magical to see all of their check register online. And I did take that to our tech department and they said they could produce that. But there was a certain level of security risk with that level of detail disclosed publicly on the website as far as timing and in terms of payee. And so they kind of put the brakes on that for me a little bit. But I want you to know that I did hear you. I saw that. And that is something that if there is full board interest that we can do that, and perhaps at a certain dollar threshold or above. So I think it's something that we can work the details out on. But we did have some security concerns.
I would love to have a recap of what the risk is.
I wonder if that's one of those items. A few of you, I think, Director DePass, Director LaForte, and Director Split, I think, with some ideas and suggestions. And I wonder if those are things that we put on the list. We're taking notes. And we have those items and we bring back to board leadership so that we can also consider some of those items to figure out what's board direction, or, where are we ideating, and then where do we want some action? And maybe that's something that we can also put on the in the presentation for contracts and at an upcoming meeting date.
Yes. And if there was a response, yeah. Well, I think we'll talk and figure out how to plan this out. I just want to check with everyone before we move on to the next question.
Oh, that's right. There's more questions.
There's more questions.
Yes. You want to go ahead? Let me see. Am I on my list? Oh, okay. The pause COLA for any non-represented leader making more than 150,000 in 1 year.
Yeah, I know that we provided a response to this, but savings for this action would be approximately $240,000, which in our $865 million budget is fairly immaterial. when we look at the impact that it would cause to our like a value statement to our leaders, on top of a significant level of reductions this year, and the compression it would cause on our salary schedules between our administrative staff and our other staff that may be rising to those ranks someday. So for us, that was a really challenging thing to grapple with. And we have communicated so far that our administrators and our non-represented staff would receive the same COLA next year as our PAT staff. So that's in solidarity, and it's already been communicated. So I just wanted to share that with you guys tonight, and answer any questions you might have.
And not just in solidarity, it's also trying to continue to look for ways where we can save funds that directly impact our structural deficit. So yeah. Any questions on that one? Oh, yes, Director LaForte. Oh, I'm sorry. Director Chair Wong.
No worries. Director LaForte?
How many non-represented leaders are in that $240,000? How many people is that?
Over the 150,000?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I didn't say that very well. How many people are we talking about?
You know, I don't have that number. As well prepared as I am for this evening, I don't have that number for you. You have to think about our probably our secondary level administrators and our central office leaders as well. So it's a fairly small proportion of our overall leadership, but it is, I mean, it is significant. So I can follow up with that number. I don't know if anyone from HR is here this evening that can speak to that.
But would this be basically chiefs and senior directors?
No, it's so if you look, so on our website, we have salary schedules posted that shows for all groups, as all school districts have that information posted publicly. So you're able to see what the salary ranges for like an elementary school principal, middle school, high school, as well as assistant principals, and then assistant directors, senior directors, chiefs, senior chiefs. So all of that information is listed publicly on the website, and you'll be able to see which ones may hit that threshold. There are, other things depending on the range plays in, like experience, years in, and things like that, just like a regular salary schedule would for one of our educators.
Director Split?
Yeah, I know we're short on time or running over, but so if that's not a quick answer, then we can cover it in a different way. But I'm just curious, I know that you just listed that group, everybody you just mentioned, like the school administrators on up, the non-represented admin category. Do we know like how many furlough days they ended up taking? And then you mentioned they're taking a COLA similar to PAT. So is it the same 1%? I guess I'm just trying to see, like, I know that there was a lot of care put into trying to make sure that the highest income earners had the biggest hit down to the lowest income earners in the district having the lowest hit. But sometimes I'm not sure how well we've told that story. So I'm just curious if we know like the furlough days and the COLA they're taking next year for that top level up.
Yeah, I think Chief Morrison can speak to the furlough days.
Yes, thank you. So yes, all of the chiefs and administrative staff took 5 furlough days over those last few months of the year. Dr. Armstrong took 6 unpaid days as a leader for our district in that. And as far as a furlough, The budget that was adopted contained a 1% COLA plus step for all qualifying staff members, and that included our leadership. So that is also what we have shared with them, that they could expect a delayed implementation of 2% in January, which is in effect for the budget 1% COLA.
And the number of the number of furlough days that they took, was it more to be equitable or just the same?
It was 5.
5 instead of 4.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then I guess this is also hard to say, but maybe some other time I'd be interested to know like the average salary of like an educator versus like the average salary of that big group not big group, that group we just talked about, but I don't need to have that now, but I think it would be, unless somebody has it hands, but probably not, but I think it'd be just good for us to know for future considerations and trying to be equitable.
I think that's a great question. I think we can talk. I think Chief Morrison can share the dollar amount that we budget per FTE for teacher salary benefits and payroll costs probably.
Yes, the average is right at 160,000 for the 26-27 school year. That's our projection. There's a wide range of
teachers?
Placement and experience. Yes.
For the admins.
Those
That's
are
teachers, including benefits.
Yes.
Etc.
And bear in mind that teachers have a 193-day contract, which is different than our administrators, who many of them have a 260-day contract. So it's not always apples to apples. I can work together with our HR department to make sure that you have like full visibility into the daily rate, which I think may be more impactful as you're, representing with our teacher folks.
Okay, there's my camera. What do you budget for like admin?
Say that.
Thanks.
I was just about to ask that. Like, hey, since we mentioned one, let's mention the other, Morrison, when we talk about budgeting for sort of a licensed administrator.
Yeah, a licensed administrator, they do range depending on the number of days in their contract. So I don't have those in front of me. I'm not going to share them right now, but I'm happy to follow up with that information. They range from probably 175 to 250 or 275, depending on the number of days that they work and the level of work they are tending to.
Thank you.
Thank you for getting mathematical with me.
Next question.
Okay, so the next question is regarding using any funds in the reserve above the 5% minimum. And all reserve funds available to support operations have been exhausted in the current year, last year now, 25-26 budget. If additional resources become available somehow, we receive additional resources that we can spend in our operations in the 26-27 year, we will come to the board and have those appropriated. The ones that we foresee coming at this time will typically be in a grant form, which are very targeted and restricted. And so they're not available necessarily to support any targeted area of the board. They will be very specific based on the grant eligibility requirements. So again, using anything above the 5% minimum in the 26-27 year will be a deficit. That's again a one-time use of funds that we do not foresee in being able to make up in our long-term projections.
Are there questions for myself? Okay, thanks.
Sorry, I'm just full of questions. I was trying to find a spot to like sneak this question in, and one-time funds feels like a good place to do it. You mentioned at the last meeting that we would be, Director Chase Miller talked about selling off, potentially selling off assets. And you said that that had been incorporated into our budget this year. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And how does that differ from, it feels like one-time funds to me. So moving forward, I guess, if we're not doing one-time funds, I'm sort of wondering how much, if we are, like, how much is it propping up the budget this year?
Yeah, that was full disclosure as we moved through the budget process, that we were counting on the sale of an asset in a determinate amount of dollars. Those details need to be provided. I don't have those for you today. But it is a one-time use of funds. And the board may determine, as we continue to decline in enrollment, to identify other properties in the future that may be liquidated in an effort to basically reduce the amount of reductions we have to make as we are facing declining enrollment. So it's a little bit of a trade-off between operational reductions and one-time fixes in terms of revenue.
Chief Morrison, can you share if that was one asset or multiple assets?
Yeah, I am reluctant in a public meeting to disclose what
Not the what. I know
ideations.
that's an executive session item. I mean, you said a fixed asset. If you can share plural or singular.
Singular and real property.
Yes, thank you. That's all.
Okay. And can I ask how much we're counting on?
$2.5 million.
Okay, thank you.
Next question.
The next question was cancel all AI contracts started within the last 2 years. And I had shared, I think several times already, that the two AI contracts that we had were pilot with both Amira and Lumi. And oftentimes districts do pilots. And what a pilot means is it's an opportunity to try out a software, however it may come to us. There has to be enough interest from a group to say, hey, I'd like to try this out and see if it could be impactful. And that's what the two softwares that are powered by artificial intelligence were. So there's no contracts to cancel at this point.
I just also want to clarify that you also stated that those AI contracts were also not funded from the general fund.
No, I'm not. I don't think Amira was. I'm almost certain that Amira was not. Lumi was not. I can say that pretty confidently, but I don't want to misspeak about Amira. Maybe Chief Morrison, if you know what that funding source was. I know that the amount, I believe it was under $75,000 for a small subset of schools to try, but I can't. Yeah,
I'm adding that to my list of things to
perfect.
follow up on. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. And just to clarify, if it's not from the general fund, that means this wouldn't be cost savings to the operating budget. And then the next question, which is the $2 million referenced by Director Engelsman.
Yeah, and I know that Director Engelsman is not able to be online, but I had a chance to follow up with her because I initially thought that she heard that from staff. And she said it was a conversation, I think, amongst a board or board member where they were saying, why 13 million? Why not 2 million? And I think that may have led her to believe, I don't want to speak for her, that it would be easy to do. And what I shared in my response, if you don't mind, Chief Morrison, I'm just going to talk to this and then feel free to chime in, is that, yeah, we can always reduce and reduce further. The things that we would, be talking about are things that are pretty impactful, right? Like when we talk about ending non-mandatory transportation, holding firm on class size minimums or grade minimums in schools, middle school athletics, custodial or groundskeeping services, eliminating some of the safety measures that we do. Like there's a lot of things that come together to make up quote unquote school in Portland. And so, and quite honestly, these are things that we're going to have to look at going into next year, as it's been said many times that we're already cutting really deep. I think the reality is that as we have fewer students, that means we're going to have fewer humans, fewer services, and oftentimes fewer supports just by the nature of the decline in enrollment. And so we have spent over 6 months, we're having conversations about budget and processing with teams, making sure that what we put forward was something that was within our organization's capacity to handle, and then B, were based on data and or feedback and minimizing as much harm as possible. It is absolutely heartbreaking to not have a teacher in a school that has had significant relationships. You know, I have 4 adult children. All 4 of them graduated from public school, right? And I can just think in my time just how impactful it was when my kiddo made a connection with someone. And unfortunately, we have fewer of those students, those kiddos that are walking in our halls. And so, yeah, I don't know how to respond. So maybe I'll just open up for questions or see if Chief Morrison has anything else to add.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong, so much for sharing. I know that that's highly personal for you. It is challenging as we see fewer adults spread out among the same number of buildings. And so we're going to be asking you guys to use your best judgment so that we can focus our resources in a way that provide that robust experience for students. And yes, I'm thankful to hear that the finding 2 million didn't come out of my team because we have been working so hard to support our leadership as we try and find things that impact students in the least way. So just thank you for your support in that.
Yeah, I have a quick comment I want to add about that as well. First, I really want to make sure that kudos goes to Superintendent Armstrong, Chief Morrison, and your leadership team in finding all these cuts and finding efficiencies to preserve as many student-facing positions as possible. I don't know if you remember back in October, I think it was, the estimate from the budget came out from HR, I believe, was close to 150 teaching positions that were potentially going to get cut. And through all your hard work through the year, through these last many months, we're able to bring that down to 87. So I just want to appreciate that. I mean, that was over 60 positions that you worked your butts off to save and preserve. And so, you know, I want to make sure that doesn't go unnoticed, and the appreciation that is shared vocally and publicly. I also want to add, just kind of bring a historical perspective. You know, we've had, one of the things that this board struggled with in the past is what to do with one-time funds, right? I know I want to recognize that we've had a pandemic, 2019, 2020, and then we've had also many one-time funds that came from, you know, federal as well as state. And the thinking back then, this was before my time, was that when teachers come back to school, it was monstrous, just exponentially more difficult. I mean, kids were lagging behind in emotional, social development and all these things. And so using those one-time funds to preserve the number of teachers, even though enrollment declined, was a deliberate choice in order to help teachers cope with the fact that we had a struggling student population coming back from the pandemic. And we continued that. And when I came on the board, we continued that even further in preventing teacher cuts to kind of ease, you know, there's a saying that if you haven't taught after the pandemic, you really don't know what it's really like in the classroom. And I totally believe that. And so the problem with one-time funds is that it props up these things, as well as our reserves have gone down to the bare minimum. And here we are today, and kind of facing the reality, picking up the can that we've kicked down the road. So I just want to acknowledge that, and just really focus at the fact that, yes, we can find more cuts, but that would also mean more pain later, right? If things that we decide to spend on now instead of saving it for later means that next year with our bigger cuts, the 65 million that we're projecting right now, is going to hurt doubly. So, you know, gratification today for increased pain later, it doesn't sound like a good deal to me. So, but you know, again, I just want to speak, just kind of really recognize the fact that this hard work has been ongoing, and I'm looking forward. I know that you're still committed to looking for as much savings as possible, to finding efficiencies, and these will result in a more stable system. And when we get to stability, that's, I think, the goal here, so that people don't have to worry about if they're going to have a job the following year. And I mean, that's a huge thing, especially with young teachers that are coming out of the program with lots of debt from their master's program. It's a huge thing to have a stable district. So I want to just kind of give kudos and make sure we voice that there has been a ton of hard work. It is ongoing, and I don't want to minimize that by, I know that people are hopeful that there's a little bit more that we can find. At the same time, this is a long-term project, right? So I want to recognize that. So thank you for giving me the time to kind of voice that.
No, I appreciate that, Chair Wong. That's the kudos that no one really wants, though, right? I appreciate you voicing it. But what I will say is that if we were able to find 2 or 3 or 4 million somewhere, unfortunately, as hard as it is to say, our recommendation wouldn't be to restore positions. Our recommendation would be to put that towards the deficit that we are facing for the next fiscal year. So that we can lower that number, because as of now, we're looking at conservatively about 65 million, and we're counting on a lot of things to happen this winter and during the legislative session. So a restoration of positions or any budget item this year adds to next year. And next year's deficit, I should say. Okay, I don't see any hands raised.
Next question.
Yeah, meaningful retirement incentive was the last suggestion that was emailed over. And
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Armstrong. I can share that we have explored several options with human resources. And this is something that maybe would have been more useful in prior years, because the situation we have today with our retiring staff, there's not a lot of incentive for that group. 2/3 of our staff are OPSRP, which is tier 3. So they're not near enough to make that leap, and any investment into early retirement for us would likely result in a multi-year obligation. And so we were having a real challenge getting that to pencil out. We will continue to work with our labor partners and model different concepts that they bring forward. But as we moved through the spring, we did not see anything that we could offer within the timelines that were required by our bargaining agreement.
Any questions on this? I know that I've heard from anecdotally that there are still payouts being made to incentive retirements from a while ago today. Oh, I see Director Sullivan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, way long ago when I retired, there were incentives because a lot of younger people were coming in. They were getting rid of people, not rid of, asking old people who were making more money to retire. But then in the end, because of some of the incentives they gave, they're still paying them. And it's very difficult. It's actually was a I was lucky, but it's been making problems and costing more money than they ever thought. Because when you signed that contract back then, some people are still on that contract and getting that special treatment. So yeah, you really have to think ahead. Immediate rewards don't always work.
I would speculate too, thank you, Director Sullivan, that the teachers that we have coming in now with more years of experience and more at higher levels of education, they're placed higher on the salary schedule. I mean, we do that very intentionally as recruitment and retention mechanism. We want the best teachers. And so even with that, an incentive to retire it's not mathing right now, but we will continue to, again, work with our labor partners on different concepts that they bring forward. We have tried everything so far.
What I do want to lift up, and I don't know if we have called this out, but we have had educators who took us up on the offer to suspend their work year, still receive benefits, so there's still a cost, but to I call it a sabbatical. I don't know what other formal term that we use in Portland, which actually saves an educator. So that moves someone up on the list. And so if it worked for an educator and their family to be able to step away from employment and still receive benefits, we had some people take us up on that. And honestly, that's where I believe that the true kudos live, because that was a game changer for some of our folks that we were able to retain. And that's all of the questions, Chair Wong.
All right, thank you for that. Any last questions from board members before we move to the next agenda item? All right, I take that as a no. So let's move on to again, thank you, Chief Morrison, for spending your Tuesday with us, Tuesday evening, and sharing your knowledge, and also Dr. Armstrong for answering these questions. All right, next up we have the beginning of our discussion for adopting new board goals. This is going to be huge. As many of you know, our current board goals were adopted in 2022, and they were written and intended to last 5 years. So that means they're due to expire in 2027. So basically the end of this next upcoming school year. So we have a school year worth of time to finish the board goals. The hope is maybe a little bit earlier. Part of that reason is because the goal is also to work on a new mission statement. The district would like to also work on a new mission statement to help guide the work, and the board goals are an integral part of that as well. Just a reminder for everyone, I did send an email with prompts to kind of get us to start discussing about the process for the board goals. Now, I just want to reiterate this again. The goal for today's discussion is to talk about the process for getting to our board goals, not the content, because I think we need to define what board members need, what they hope for, what they want to see in terms of how we get there. And then from that, we will figure out what kind of help that we need in order to get there and discuss the content and finalize the content. So again, the purpose today is trying to figure out the process. During this discussion, I will be taking copious notes to make sure that I get all your thoughts down, and then we will work and problem solve to figure out how we can move to next steps. All right, so let's start. Now, what I'll do is I'll read out the prompt, and I'll call on everyone one at a time, so you have a chance, so everyone has a chance to answer. And while you're doing that, I'll write down notes and make sure that I get it all down. And yay, board goals, yeah, this is huge. My only word of advice is let's not screw this up. All right, so let's start with number 1. the first question is really the why, right? This is what guides the work and why we're doing this. So the question is, what do you see as the purpose of the board goals? And I'll go around. Well, it looks like no one's raising their hand, so I'll just call on people. Let's start with Director Sullivan.
Okay, well, I just see the purpose is sort of having a guiding star of where we want to be, so that when we have things we have to consider, we can use that as our, is this going to work toward our goal? Just gives you something to aim for.
Great, thank you. I got down guiding star. The purpose is so that the district and board have something to aim for, something to kind of check against.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Chair Wong, but I just noticed that Christy has her hand raised and she's not in the main Zoom room. And I just wanted to call that out to see if someone can, I don't have the capability to move her into the main room. But I'm sure she wants to be here for this conversation.
To elevate her as a participant.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks for noticing that.
Thank you for noticing. Now I'm here.
I noticed you dropped off, but I didn't know why. So
Oh, I got fully kicked off and now my camera won't turn on at all. So
right.
I'll just be stuck with a voice. Do you want me to talk? I can talk now.
Yeah, you want to answer the question? What do you see as the purpose of the board goals?
Invisible me would like to just say ditto to what I heard. One thing that's on my mind is that Dr. Armstrong wasn't the superintendent when the initial board goals were, the board goals we are currently using were put in place. So I also think it's a great chance for us to sync up and decide together on those. I know they say board goals, but it's really of great interest to me to make sure that our board goals match up with our superintendent's vision and also with the district continuous improvement plan that's already in place and already has things moving forward. I would love to see us be in harmony with that, even if we have tweaks or changes, maybe even just around the edges. But I think to me, one of the main points is to achieve that synchronicity from the board, the superintendent on down. Thanks.
Great, love it. So ditto plus an opportunity for our new board goals to align with superintendent's vision as well as the district's mission, and love it. All right, let's go to Director Chase Miller.
I'm another ditto. I think that the board goals kind of serve as a North Star and help us clarify and identify what our priorities are and ensure that we are focusing on those things.
Great. Ditto, identify priorities, focusing on that North Star. Love it. Director LaForte.
I think I would just really, I think I see them as working synergistically with the superintendent's evaluation. I felt that this year there were, initiatives that Dr. Armstrong worked on that we weren't necessarily measuring against that were positive. So I think I would like for it to influence the evaluation template.
Yes. So in addition to it is part of the superintendent's evaluation, something that we can measure against and evaluate against as well. Great. Vice Chair DePass.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have this discussion. And so when I thought about, when you sent the props out, I thought about, what's the why for board goals? And the board goals, to be honest, when they were first developed, I never really understood what we're actually measuring. Like we're just easily rolls off the tongue, like third grade reading and fifth grade math. I think our board goals are more like a key performance indicator. As a board, my hope is that we would develop a vision, like an overarching vision for the district in concert with and synergistic with, the superintendent. So together, one team, we come up with this like big idea, like we want all kids to have access to high quality, robust educational. That's very broad, right? And very vague. Then how do we measure that? We measure that by the board goals. And I think the board goal might even be a misnomer, but the board, then how do you notice how do you know if you're doing those things? How do you know if you're providing educational access? And you can measure third grade reading, you can measure fifth grade math. So the goals are going to be the things that we can, the key performance indicators that we can actually measure to determine the rate of progress or the amount of progress that we're making against our North Star, our vision for the district. And I'm really excited that we're going through this again, because I've wondered if the board goals weren't accurate, because we've never met them. I don't know where they came from. And so I'd love to have some data informed. I'd love to hear from the experts on what are the things that we should actually be measuring that make a difference to every student in our district.
Great, I love it. So what I heard was working synergistically with our mission, having measured outcomes or KPIs to determine the rate of progress on how not just the superintendent but the district is doing.
Yes. So once we determine a mission and a vision, the board goals then explain how close or how, where we are in relation to that vision. In other words, we have a vision that every third grader leaves the third grade knowing how to read. How do we measure that? Well, we measure outputs, outcomes and outputs in the third grade. And so right now what we're calling a board goal is actually an output or a look for or a key performance indicator. It tells us how we're doing our overarching mission.
Great. Yes. All right.
Thank you.
I think, did I miss anybody? Oh yeah, me. I think I agree with what everyone said. Also adding to Director LaFort's, not just the superintendent evaluation, but also the board's evaluation. How is the board doing in terms of getting to the North Star, right? Our rate of progress. So I think the board goals acts as two things. One is kind of the KPI, kind of adding to what Vice Chair DePass said, the KPIs for not just superintendent, but also the board, working synergistically with the mission of the district, but also providing a North Star, like why something to weigh all the actions of the district against, right? Are we here to prepare our students to be the best possible versions of themselves, right? By the time they graduate, things like that. So I think that's where I am. All right, thank you, everybody. Vice Chair DePass, I see your hand up.
I just wanted to add that I'm very excited about the conversation. It sounds like we're all thinking similarly about how to approach this. I liked that you brought in the board though, and I talked a little bit earlier about our opportunity costs, and as we have less staff to carry out, work, I think it'll be really important for us to know exactly how the board's doing and to measure the opportunity costs of us doing things that aren't aligned with the North Star. In other words, we have a North Star that has, student forward. This is what we're measuring. We're not talking about the paint color on the windowsills. We're literally talking about student performance and student outcomes. And so I'm really excited to have those we're calling them board goals. I don't know if that's the right name, but that might keep us honed to this larger idea, pulling the rope in the same direction as a board. And when we veer from that, then we have a way to measure what the opportunity costs of us veering off that North Star. I think it'll be very important for us to monitor our own, how we show up, as well as how the superintendent's doing on meeting those goals. And to the extent that which we're either supporting or not those district-wide goals.
Great, thank you. I like that opportunity cost, keeping the board focused on the North Star.
What matters.
What matters.
Yes. And we'll determine as a board what matters.
Yes. All right, next up, the second question. And just so everyone knows, I will be emailing Director Engelsman to get her responses as well, because I know she was not able to make this meeting. So I'll have her responses as well. hopefully, if she has time to send them to me. The next question is, what aspect, features, or characteristics are most important for the board goals to have? Now, this does touch a little bit maybe on content. I would like just kind of remind us that we're focused on process. The goal of the answers that I'm hoping to get from you is to figure out what we need to get to the content that you would like to see in the board goals, right? So let's just kind of keep content kind of as this goal, this ideal. What do you need to kind of get there? And so that's what this question was aimed at. So aspect, features, or characteristics are most important for board goals to have. Let's mix up again. Let's start with Director LaForte.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes.
I'm totally paying attention. I'm just
no worries. This is a hard question.
I'm like, I'm listening. I swear to God.
Well, I could also probably talk in a less drony voice too. What aspects, features, or characteristics are most important for the board goals to have? So again, the question here is trying to target what types of, the reason I wrote this question is to figure out what types of supports that we need to get there.
I'm a little confused with what you're asking, so I'm going to answer a couple different ways.
Yes, that works perfect.
I think I might help by clarifying my previous answer when I said I would like it to align with superintendent's value. What I'm trying to say is there is work that happens in the district that we don't necessarily, I mean, I don't want to say we don't capture it under, third grade reading, fifth grade math, whatever, but like there's like culture and climate, leadership development, those sorts of buckets that bring our children to school and keep them there. Those are the kind of, I feel like I'm getting to the next meeting. Those are the kind of buckets I would like to see, because I know that work happens. And when we did the review, and I know I can't speak about it, but I felt like we didn't have a way to sort of lean into that work. Much of it was done very well. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, I mean, here, let me see if I got it correct. From what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like there are other aspects that are important for a student to be successful that our current board goals are not capturing. And not to get into content,
correct. Yes.
You want to make sure that we explore that those aspects that are important to student success are explored and captured in the new board goals.
Yes.
Great.
I mean, we want our students to feel loved and cared for when we come to school, but I'm not seeing that in our board goals. So how do we, the facilitator, I think, will obviously do a lot of this work. What does that look like?
Great. I'm adding also important for students, but also student engagement.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's go with Vice Chair DePass.
Yeah, I agree with what Director LaForte said about capturing, like focusing solely on third grade reading and fifth grade math leaves out the part of the story that is positive that we can actually measure. And so I would like us to, and I'm not sure what we're going to measure there, but I think that we're missing some important elements that go into the full experience of students. And maybe in general, we just measure student experience, not just outcomes in third grade, fifth grade, eighth grade readiness, or ninth grade readiness. So yeah, I just want to say I agree that we're missing some important work that happens during the evaluation process.
I like that, including the other quote unquote other parts of the story.
The storytelling aspect is important because, we all know there's tons of work going on, but we're only measuring these like very discrete buckets. Yes. And they're actually maybe not quite hitting the mark either.
Yeah. Great. So, all right, let's go to Director Splitt.
Oh,
I'm here. I just can't be visible.
Okay.
Womp womp. It was letting me turn on and then it's shutting off, but now it's nothing. Anyway, whatever. Everything I'm hearing makes sense to me. I think my first thought when I read this in the email was like the SMART goals framework, which that just seems like something we should keep in mind as we're picking, like we want to make sure these are things we can measure. It's maybe tough to measure those other experiences, but I think everybody knows how much I love that we do like the climate survey, that I always forget the name of the survey, but I love it. Anyway, it's like I've never once said it right, but that survey to me is really important. And I think again, not to get into what they are, but there's like attendance that can indicate belonging, and then there's those results that can indicate belonging. So we do have some quantifiable things we already do that help to tell that more qualitative story. So yes, and let's just make sure that when we're figuring out how we're going to measure, we're using things we're already doing that can help us demonstrate that. But that's really my main thought, was to bring up the climate survey results. And by the way, not just for student experience, I really think it would be interesting for us to consider having something that demonstrates like staff and family results as well. It might be interesting to at least ponder. Anyway, I think we're getting into it, but into more than detail than you want. But I guess I'm just trying to say that I think using the tools we already have and are already getting information to develop sort of SMART goals makes sense. And now my family's coming back, so I'm going to go on mute and move to a different location.
Okay, great. Thanks, Director Split. I heard modeling it like SMART goals, something that's measurable, direct, achievable. We all know what SMART goals is. And then you really like the school climate survey and how that has been utilized and used, or what it reveals, and also considering maybe something that gauges staff and family experience as well. Director Chase Miller.
I agree a lot with what I heard Director Split say. I was also thinking SMART goals. I don't think that it serves us well to have goals that have been so hard to attain. I think we should have goals that are more realistic, that are achievable, and that we can then build off of. And I also really like the idea of incorporating employee and family experience into that as well.
Great. I heard ditto on the SMART goal, something measurable, but also attainable, and also something that captures employee and family experience as well.
Yeah, and I don't mean like that we shouldn't be aspirational or we should set a low bar, but I think one of the things that has come up recently is just that we've had these goals for a long time and have not been able to meet them. So, really like reassessing where are we now, what have we made progress in, and what really makes sense for the next 5 years, and feels like something that is not just aspirational, but is also achievable.
Got it. Nice. And Director Sullivan?
Yeah, I wrote down SMART goals first too. I really like the specific, measurable, achievable. That's what we have to have in there. Relevant. And the last one is time bound. I don't know if it has to be time bound, but just to see that we're making progress in those areas. Agree with everything that Rochelle said and that Christy said. Yeah, don't have anything to add.
I also agree with what everyone said, and you all said it better than I could have said it. The only thing I would like to add is that one of the number one top consideration is I want to make sure that we don't lose the social justice aspect of our board goals. I think we have a real duty to do the best we can in terms of addressing the achievement gap, especially with our Black and Brown students, and making sure that they graduate with everything that they need to be successful in today's society, just as well as we educate everyone else. Maybe even
Going beyond the process, Eddie.
yeah, I know I'm getting the process, but I just want to make, so I guess my feature that I want is to make sure that we don't lose the social justice aspect of our board goals.
I just want to second that, and I want to just appreciate you for making that. It's very easy right now in this climate to like not want to talk about this, you know, painful subject, but it's still as a values for Portland and a value for our district, and the work that we've been doing and will continue to do. It's very important to center equity. So thank you for bringing that up. It's still important. We still have to do the work, and that really is the work. That is like our main work from my perspective, but let's keep it front and center.
Thank you. I appreciate that second. Sorry, I'm just writing that down. All right. The third question is, what are some pitfalls or concerns that you wish to avoid as we develop the board goals? So let's mix this up again. I'll start with Director Split.
Yeah, so I thought this question was interesting. And I really think that for the most part, our more like affirmative answers have in some ways already addressed what sort of pitfalls we want to avoid. And I'm going to now, in a way, answer the next question too. But I think the number one pitfall that I can think of is the board choosing to vary from too far from the district continuous improvement plan, which I know we did not co-create. So I'm not saying we need to stick to it 100%, but I really think trying our best to be consistent with it would be a good idea because we're already doing things toward that. And I think just, you know, when you've got, oh my gosh, did anybody go to the OHSU Titanic exhibit? Anyway, when you have like a really big boat and it's already moving in a direction, it's really hard to turn it. And Superintendent Armstrong has gotten a really big boat moving in a certain direction. So I don't want us to get in a situation where we start trying to turn that ship, because it takes a while to turn it. So to use a metaphor, I think the more we can be consistent and where we do have things we want to add or layer, they're not different, but like additive and harmonious.
Awesome, thank you. I heard concern of veering too far from the district continuous improvement plan. And also we're a big boat, turning it too drastically, too hard may actually probably be more destructive than productive. Just summarizing, but you said it better than I did. I think I got everything, right? Let's go to Director Sullivan.
I was thinking, don't just have a lot of wishful thinking, and I wish this would happen, but have it be something, I guess that goes back to the early one, achievable and going along, as Christy said, with what staff is doing already. I mean, why, unless we have some great idea different, why try to turn the boat? So, and whatever the goal is, have it be realistic. Don't just have something that looks good on paper. Like the last one, the last part was to be a good citizen, sort of. I mean, that looks good, but it's not really something we can measure or show that I guess we show what we think we're doing to go toward that, but it doesn't really show how we get there. So have it be something workable, realistic. I guess that's the second question. I guess this question is hard. I don't know how this one.
Yeah, it sounds like you added to it, just kind of staying away from wishful thinking, kind of SMART goals, keeping it realistic.
Yeah.
something that's actually achievable.
Yeah.
Great. Let's go to Director Chase Miller.
I just want us to make sure that we are staying focused on kids and holding our students, and particularly our focal students, at the center of this. As a school district, we exist to educate students, and that should be our primary focus. So I want to make sure that that is where the focus of these goals remains.
Thank you. Making sure that our students stay at the center of this, and especially our focal students. That
yeah,
you said better than I did.
Not good peaks and waterfalls.
Yeah. Let's go to Vice Chair DePass.
Yeah, thank you. So I love what Director Split said about kind of keeping the district continuous improvement program front and center, and sticking to that as closely as we can and providing input, but also I don't necessarily believe that we need to co-create everything, especially as a non-educator on this board. I wouldn't know the first thing about how to run a district or how to get to the outcomes we want to see. What I can do is I can either support or not, or support to various degrees, a district continuous improvement plan that's already in motion. And if I have issue with it, like challenge it then. So I think that, you know, I've talked about opportunity cost again. To the extent that we can, as a board, kind of focus on one idea and one plan and not veer the district off by suggesting one-offs, I think, yeah, that's what I'd like us to, I guess, one team work together, use the district continuous plan, which will like feed into our strategic planning that the district will do as well, and sort of just hone to those products that we already have that are developed by professional educators and people that are professionals in running school districts.
Great. We got the aligning with the.
It wasn't very articulate, but
yeah, district.
I know what I meant.
Yeah, proven plan. I think I got the gist of it. It was also just kind of not focusing on the how, because that's the work of the experts, but also
yes,
and not needing to co-create everything alongside, to kind of focus the work of the board. You know, for example, like keeping it to one idea, one plan. Basically, trying to minimize the temptation to popcorn and not being as productive.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like us to come up with a plan or support the plan that's already in place and not veer us off, because that veering off is the opportunity cost I keep talking about. Like honing to a plan keeps us in a place where we'll be able to measure outputs rather than measure how many times we veered off the plan. So I'd like to be like really productive this year as a team.
Productivity front and center. All right, Director LaForte.
I don't have anything to add. I agree with everything that was said.
I just left a huge space in my notebook for what you're going to say. Let's cross that off. Thank you. I guess, did I get everybody? Yeah. My only addition is that I wrote SMART goals in this one. Just wanted to make sure that our goals are achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Time-bound in terms of like our evaluations, whether it's superintendent or board self-evaluation. All right, so let's move on to the last question. And the question is, how do you envision the board goals interacting with the district work plans and mission? Again, this is maybe touching a little bit on content, or at least your vision of the content. But I think the goals here is to see what kind of, again, it kind of is a little bit going into the why. But I actually, let me not explain it. I'd rather hear what your interpretation is first. So let's start with Director LaForte then.
Honestly, I think I kind of touched on this already in terms of like how I want it to be. I want it to interact well with the evaluation process and also Christie's point, the district continuous improvement plan. I feel like right now it's just a copy and paste of the district continuous improvement plan. And I think we need to think like, what are our board goals? Versus, they're just kind of all the same. I think I've said this before. I think our board goals, they're the most important things we do. The current ones that we listed, which is third grade reading, fifth grade math, ninth grade, blah, 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 blah. That feels like one bucket to me. And yeah, I think just the most important thing I think is to be able to use it to evaluate our leadership.
It almost sounds like you're wanting a title change. So instead of board goals, it should be the board established goals for the district.
Kind of.
Because you want it being integrated, not copy and pasted, and it works hand in hand with evaluations in the district and continuous improvement.
Yeah. You said that better than I did.
I don't know. We can disagree on that. Director Sullivan?
Yes, I agree that I think Virginia said that already. Had another answer about, I would hope that the board goals and the district work plans and mission would be very similar. And definitely we'd be listening to staff and the public, and then interacting with staff with what we hear and know. I don't know. It just seems like making it work with our evaluation of the superintendent, our evaluation of ourselves. They should be pretty much the same. So just kind of not exactly sure how to make that work, but yeah, I wrote down that the work plans and mission would lead to the accomplishment of board goals, whatever our board goals become.
I see like kind of a how you're describing it is almost like a flow chart. You have the mission and the district continuous improvement plan. They all align with the board goals.
Right.
Director LaFour, I see your hand up. Did you just want to add or continue?
I know, I was like, can I just add really quick?
Absolutely.
I just pulled up, like, it's an example, like LAUSD's board goals. There's like their strategic goals. It's like academic excellence is one bucket. And I feel like that's all of that's all we have right now. But then we've also got engagement and collaboration, strength of partnerships with families, students, and staff, operational effectiveness. These are all the things we talk about all the time and that we do measure, but we're not saying it. So I think they could be more reflective of the work we're doing.
Okay. Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's
Okay.
almost like separate buckets, very well defined. Like the LAUSD has a really good example of how these buckets, not just separate buckets, but how they integrate.
Right.
That's a great idea. I like that. Just want to check, Director Sullivan, I feel like I got a gist of what you said.
Yeah, I wasn't saying it well, so I hope you got the gist.
Yeah. It seems like, everything is just the integration about how everything kind of works and how the board goals is kind of the point person almost, right? Maybe, but yeah. Well, we can, this is not the only conversation. We'll keep this conversation open as we continue. Director Chase Miller?
Yeah, I think my input is similar to what others have said already. I think that the board goals and the continuous improvement plans and the work plans should all speak to each other, and like thinking about like the the flow chart reference, not exactly sure what is flowing into what, but like our goals as a board should support the work that is being advanced by the district continuous improvement plan. So everything should be aligned and in service of the big picture, which is, I don't know, probably our mission statement.
Okay. Mission statement, big picture, and the district continuing improvement plan, mission goals, all these should be integrated so they all support each other.
Yep. That's what I meant to say.
Oh, good. Okay, I'll add that to yours. Support each other. I like that. Vice Chair DePass.
Yeah, I really love what Director Chase Miller said. It sounds like to me an integrated system. I also like what Director LaForte said about, academic outcomes are important, and there are other things that go into the success of a district. And it'd be great to be able to have a way to recognize those things. Director Chase Miller talked about an integration. I don't know if he used the word integration, but the work that the board does should absolutely support the work of the district. For us to work against what's already happening in the district is it's not productive. It slows things down. I think we really want to kind of all move forward together. That doesn't mean we all need to agree, but that we're supporting each other. The work of the board and the work of the district it's a symbiotic relationship. They're interconnected. They need to move in concert. And so I would like us to be very intentional about how we show up in that work. Supportive, questioning, thought partnership, but not stopping progress. I'd like our work at the end of the year next year to look like we made progress.
Right. So
together
for clarity, so that we can not only move forward together, but also identify progress that has been achieved.
Absolutely, but just recognize it's symbiotic. Like both systems sort of need to work together, and it doesn't work when we don't work together as well. Thank you.
Director Split.
Hi. Everything I've heard I agree with. The only thing I just want to add is that I've already and I've definitely made my point clear that I want us to be consistent with the direction the superintendent is already taking us. But the one thing I do want to add is I remember going to when I was a baby board member, going to an OSBA event. Several of us went. Vice Chair Chase Miller, Director LaForte was there, the three of us at least. And we were all hearing this really clear, you have kind of your mission, your vision, your board goals, superintendent goals, superintendent evaluation, and a district continuous improvement plan that are all in harmony. And my concern was that we had too many pieces of our puzzle, because we have the portrait of a graduate. And so all I really want to say is, one, there's best practice here. We should follow that. We're all on the same page with that. But two, it might be good for us to consider, when we are aligning all these things, making sure that when a new board member starts, sending them our guide North Star doesn't require 30 pages of reading 4 documents, and really just have it all be co-housed, so that it's all one cohesive. I mean, the superintendent evaluation isn't cohesive, but the superintendent goals, I think, would all be kind of part of one cohesive body of work. And I think that would be one thing we could consider doing as we're approaching making changes, is to really make sure it's clear what that North Star is, and that it's clear that that North Star extends to a set of foundational documents that make up that North Star, if that makes sense.
Great, I like that. Just to summarize, being consistent with the direction of the superintendent, following best practice, and then cohesive, so that it ensures that this is something that not easy to continue, but a new board can pick up and continue just being that cohesiveness. That kind of got the general ideas. I think it's my turn. Okay, so I think everyone said this better than I did. Maybe the thing I add is not necessarily, is more of a question. It's more just having the clarity in the board goals and how it interacts with the mission and the district continuous improvement plan, so that we can see how it incorporates our school-based staff input and how they identify, this includes teachers and principals, and how they are part of this process for achieving the board goals. I think that's the only thing I think is more of a question of how do we integrate that into this cohesive format. Sorry, I'm just writing all this down. Before kind of moving on, I want to also just give time for Superintendent Armstrong to, if there's any questions, ideas, thoughts that you also want to share and talk about.
Well, I'm looking forward to the conversation, and I appreciate the nod towards cohesion, especially when we think of the district continuous improvement plan and all of the body of work that we have together, being all on a single page with a guiding North Star sounds excellent to me, and I appreciate the intentionality to also think about like the ways in which you evaluate things you want me to report on, all being part of the matrix. So
thank you. I did have a question for Superintendent Armstrong. I know that there's work on the district's mission and things like that, and I think a lot of that's tied to the board goals. So I'm just kind of curious if you can share what, in terms of timing on the work of the board goals, if there's aspirations, hopes, or goals or concerns that you have in terms of timing and on our work on the board goals.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The mission and vision, I believe that is something that I know the board is excited to jump into. Once the mission and vision is established from the school board, I then take that information to the team, and that is sort of the building blocks for the strategic plan. So, I like to use simple terms. So the mission statement being those things that we do every day, with the vision being what we hope to do someday. And then the strategic plan is our roadmap to get to what we hope to do someday, while also doing the things that we do every day. If that isn't, I think that was simple terms. And so in order for me to get to that strategic plan document, I do need to have those words, the mission and vision articulated out from you all's perspective on your everyday plan for Portland Public Schools as a governance team, and then what your someday is. And so the sooner that you get into that, then the sooner we're able to make sure that we're asking community the right questions and thinking thoughtfully about how we're going to pull together engagement in a year that will already have a ton of engagement happening on a lot of things. Was that too wordy?
No, I think that gives us
Okay.
something to think about.
All right.
That's great. Before we move on, I just want to double check with the board members. What I kind of got from this discussion. Thank you all for your input and answers. I think they're very enlightening. But I also think that it kind of showed that there was a lot of alignment among all of us in terms of the features that we want to see and things like that. So I think that's very exciting. Before moving on, I just want to double check to see if anyone had any last thoughts or comments you want to share before moving on to the next topic? And if I can share, I will probably be in discussion through a while trying to figure out what kind of supports that we need. We are thinking about perhaps bringing not just the people that we've been working with in our retreat, but also bring in OSBA as well to see what kind of guidance they can also provide as well. And when we synergize all that information, I'll be sharing that with everybody. From your tired looks, I think that means time to move on. All right, let's move on. No regrets, right? All right, last thing we have on, well, second to last thing. Second last thing we have on our agenda tonight is the consent agenda. So board members, if there's any items that you would like to pull for a separate discussion, please indicate that now. Okay.
I'm raising my hand. Sorry. Yes,
sorry.
there's one.
Yes, Director Fort.
The resource synergy contract.
Okay, so I don't know how to go about doing this since it's in the resolution is all one, includes the synergy in the West and the Plan Head Start. So we can, well, I think the process, we give that a separate resolution number, correct? All right. So we are pulling resource synergy from the consent agenda for separate discussion and vote. Ms. Powell, is there any other changes to the consent agenda?
No.
All right. So let's go ahead and put the consent agenda on the table. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda? This is minus the resource synergy contract.
Second.
Thank you. I think I heard Director Split move and Vice Chair DePass second.
Correct.
Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Director LaForte?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I noticed on the pool contractor RFPs, that there was a form added. It's a rate proposal form that was in each of those contracts that broke out the hourly rates. And I thought it was a great addition. It made it really easy to compare all the work. So I feel like I just wanted to shout that out, give some kudos for that. That was a great addition. And I did notice that it bakes in annual inflation to hourly rates. And I just wanted to basically comment, I'm going to vote for these. I'm going to vote yes. But moving forward, that's not something that I would recommend. Promising that we're going to pay more next year or the year after, like when somebody that we're negotiating with may hold their rates. So that was more of a comment than anything. But I loved the form, the addition. So just wanted to say thanks.
So, thank you. Any other comments or sorry, questions, discussion? All right. Ms. Powell, is there anyone who signed up for public comment on the consent agenda?
No.
I have one more question. I totally forgot. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
On the ETR Health Smart Digital contract, I had sent this. I sent this in yesterday, so I mean I get an answer to this. I was just wondering why we opted out of the middle school sexual health curriculum, and was wondering if it was covered in another set of curriculum.
I think I know the answer if somebody else isn't on that line that does, because I think it came up in TLE, right? Didn't we get a presentation on this in TLE? I think that it's because we're building our own. I think it's because we're like puzzle making, because there wasn't like a thing that worked for everything. And so if memory serves, the reason was that we're like, I think potentially developing our own for that grade level or something, because what they were offering at that grade level wasn't the right fit, but other pieces of it at other levels were the right fit. So there were just like different pieces of it being applied in different. So rather than have the whole curriculum and we're only using part of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just want to remember. Yeah.
Probably not my answer is the right one, but just because we don't have the same number of people hanging around, just to answer the question.
I think I remember that too, Christy. That
Sounds very familiar.
presentation.
That's my understanding also.
All right. The board will now vote on sorry, I can't talk. 7343 through 7350. This is without the resource synergy contract. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? I didn't hear a yes from everybody, but I'm going to guess that this passed by a vote of 6-0. Right? Because I did not hear any no. So I think that's an educated guess. We'll now create a new resolution for the resource synergy contract. Is it okay if we call this resolution 7351?
Yes, I was just going to say that. Yes.
Okay. So resolution 7351, do I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 7351? The resource synergy contract.
So moved.
We have Director Chase Miller moves and Director Sullivan seconds. Board discussion on resolution 7351 resource synergy contract.
You want me to just jump in?
Yes.
So I was looking at this contract yesterday, and it's for like waste, like sensors for, it sounds like dumpsters, and it would tell us when they need to be serviced, which sounds like a great idea. It sounds like this would save money because we wouldn't go send trucks to do pickups if there's nothing in there. So I asked how much we're actually saving by spending the money on the sensors. And if I'm reading what I got back correctly, it looks like we save about, and this is based on, I think, 2022 through 2024, about 51 to 52,000 a year, but we're spending 136,000 on this contract. So if I'm reading this correctly, we're actually upside down, and this is costing us about $85,000 a year. So I thought it would be worth pressing pause, seeing if we're understanding this correctly, and maybe bringing this back at our next meeting, if that's correct, because otherwise it's costing us money, not saving us money.
Can I ask about that? That's interesting. Is this something that we know the data about? We already have the trends. Could we not just look at like where we're picking up every week, where we're picking up every other week? I wonder if that would give us a little bit more information rather than paying for something that costs us money. So is there someone in facilities that could furnish that information to see what our pickup trends are? Our tonnage trends per site?
Good
And
idea.
it might be a lot to ask, but I'm just curious too now.
Well, I guess one also question that we also need to ask is that if we are wanting to do what Director LaForte is asking, to postpone this vote until August potentially, right? Our next board meeting. Are there any consequences for postponing this vote until August? Right? Because if there are none, then I don't see why not. But if there are, for example, pausing in service or other unintended costs, then I think we need to take that into consideration.
Agreed.
Is there anybody to answer the question? Is there anybody out there in?
Well, everyone's on vacation because this is why, like, for example, our July board meetings are usually kept light because this is when most staff gets to take a vacation. The other thing is that, you know, I want to commend Director LaFour for bringing this up, but also consider you know, in terms of the timing, because I know that we don't have the people to answer either question, so we'd be kind of guessing without people answering this question about what are the impacts of postponing this vote. I guess the one thing I kind of want to consider is that I wonder if was staff. I mean, it sounds like you got to. Could you actually expand more upon the reply that you got from staff in terms of the cost and the cost of the contract?
Yes. So, Roseanne, thank you for sharing the information today. So it looks like it says Resource Synergy has identified approximately $116,500 in overbilling that the district has actively worked with our waste haulers to refund in PPS credits. I don't quite understand that either. Like, why would we? I understand the overbilling. It's the money that we save, but I'm not understanding why we would get credits back from our waste haulers for it either. But
Director LaFour,
yeah.
could I just jump in and say to Roseanne that we do have Senior Chief Franco who wants to join the conversation if we can let him in. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you as much as just ask Roseanne to let him in.
Thank you.
Sorry, Director LaFour, I don't know if do you want to finish your statement while we're
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So it's it's ready for John. So it says that Resource Synergy has identified $116,500 in overbilling, in parentheses, savings from Q1 2022 through Q1 2024. So that's actually a couple years ago. So I've asked for the more recent data. So that's 9 quarters, which would be about $50,000 a year. But we're, like I said, we're paying 136. But then there's something about credits, and maybe John can explain that. It says something about how the district is actively working with our waste haulers to refund PPS and credits.
Hi, everybody. Did you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm still here. Still here. Been here. Good to see everybody. So first of all, appreciate the question, Director LaFour. Really good questions. And first, let me just say, like, we wouldn't put this forward. I think you've all been in the conversation about contracts. Like, I'm very cognizant about what we're putting forth. And we'll get, I know with what Frank shared earlier is from 22-24, we'll get more updated numbers specifically. But even in conversation with him, just because I think to Director Wong's point, we do have people who are out. Just in conversation with him, the value. So let me give you some context in terms of what these sensors do. So the waste haulers, in a sense, refund money or issue bill credits because of service adjustments. So right sizing or service verification, which is shown by these sensors. So most waste contractors charge a fixed rate. They based on assumption that a dumpster, for example, is 100% full every time it is picked up. So that means if a hauler comes to pick up a 6-yard dumpster that's only 10% full, we still have to pay for that 6 yards of trash, right? Ultimately. So the sensors help to prove the actual volume. And so in the contractual service level agreements, so when sensor data consistently proves that a school's dumpsters are being, say, emptied while mostly empty, the Resource Synergy uses that data to let us know, and we in a sense force the hauler to adjust the contract. So for example, dropping pickups, for example, from say 3 times a week to maybe once. And if a hauler changes the weekly pickups, but the data triggers, say, a retroactive adjustment, or if they missed, say, a scheduled collection completely, then we get a credit or a refund. So because sometimes, haulers charge extra fees for overages or contamination. For example, you put cardboard in a trash bin. So the sensors, they help verify whether those charges were legitimate. And then if the data shows that the hauler's claim was false, then they have to refund the fee. And I will say this too, is that when we evaluate contracts, we also look at, and I think Director DePass, I think mentioned this early on, there's opportunity costs here or indirect soft costs that we do pay attention to. So for example, things that don't show up on like the raw waste bill are administrative labor, before sensors, facilities and accounts payable staff, for example, would have to manually review, audit, and potentially dispute hundreds of complex utility and hauler bills across. I mean, you know how many sites we have. We have over 80 school sites, but we also have district level sites. And so the resource synergy acts as, in a sense, kind of like an automated dispatch and billing auditor, which can save hundreds, honestly, of internal staff hours per year. Also, too, I think another benefit that is not often seen, if you're just looking specifically at dollars, is if we're effectively monitoring this, reducing unnecessary truck traffic on school grounds, minimizing the physical wear and tear on parking lots. And I think we all know that like repaving our lots is incredibly expensive. Also reducing the active safety risk of heavy vehicles driving around our kids, I think is an important piece that's not captured. And so this contract also helps us meet what we would see as mandatory municipal recycling and compost diversion rates, in a sense, avoiding heavy compliance fees too.
Aren't we already going? I think it sounded like the sensors are telling us how much is in the trash can. Is it actually changing routes?
Well, it could, I guess, is the piece. I think it's really just kind of a accountability measure that we can use to potentially adjust fees and kind of those types of things. But
have we received reimbursement? Because it says we're actively working to receive. Have we actually received those credits from our waste haulers?
From the 22, yes. And so I will say from the data from the 24 to current, like we're still recapturing. Like I need to get those numbers for you. I don't want to say specifically, where we're at because our people are out. And so we'll make sure to get that information. But I just wanted to outline, some of, why our folks feel that this is a worthwhile and definitely valuable contract.
I want to follow up really quick. It sounds like a lot of this is, especially in a time when our district staff is pretty skeleton-ish crew, also intended to save time and administrative burden. Is that good?
Still not quite understanding where the administrative and time burden is.
May I just quickly comment? So I sat right next to the garbage people at the City of Portland, and it's very numerical heavy, very tonnage based. It sounds like, and maybe John, you can confirm this for us, but we're spending a lot of time tracking garbage when we're like the governors of this district. We're not operational. And so just to remind us, I've just been timing us on just this conversation. We should figure out what we're trying to solve and then move forward. It sounds like there's some question about whether this is worth it or not. And then the other question is whether do we need to make a decision tonight? But just the time that we've already spent on something that really is not necessarily the board's purview necessarily, this level of detail.
I disagree. We're the local contract review board, and we're charged with reading the contracts. Right now, it looks like
absolutely.
We're up right now by about $85,000.
Yeah, and we've also spent some time on the nuts and bolts when, as board directors, we really are like we're higher level, 30,000 foot rather than the 10,000 foot. So it's just a comment. No, I'm not making judgment one way or the other, but just to point out how we're spending our time. Do we need to make the decision tonight can we wait for a month, early August, to make this decision? Or
if you feel more comfortable, then yeah, we can wait. I will say,
I think it'd be great.
Yeah, And we
Yeah.
can, if you feel more comfortable, we can definitely wait and pull it. Push
And
it
then
to
we
the-
get some more information about like literally the return on investment.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we could do that.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
Director
That'd be
Slate?
great. Yeah, I just wanted to come in and just say, one, that we absolutely should be able to ask questions about contracts that come up and talk about them. Just to be another vote in that direction, that it's important to do that to show that we are doing our due diligence. And also I was just gonna ask if we could wait till August so that we could indeed stop this conversation for
Yeah.
tonight and get the information we need before voting. And it sounds like we can. So I would just love it if we did that.
Absolutely. I
Since
think
it
my
seems like
point
people were
is,
open to that.
does the entire board care about the garbage?
Yeah.
I care a lot about garbage.
Let's
I
follow
actually
procedure.
do.
So,
But
Yep.
it sounds
that's
like
all it
there's
was.
there's a move. Do we have a move to postpone contract
moved.
resolution 7351 to
Second.
August 4th?
I'll second
I
too.
will make
Yeah,
that
second.
motion. We have a fight for
We have Director Split moves. We have the second.
Second.
Thank you. Director LaForte seconds the move. Board discussion. And I just want to confirm, Dr. Franco, moving this contract to the August 4th board meeting is not going to cause any undue burden, harms, or costs.
No, we are, I've just been in conversation with Frank, and so we can move it to next month, but we definitely don't want to push it no later than that.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
The board will now vote on postponing resolution 7351, the resource synergy contract, to August 4th. All those in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Abstentions? Noes? All right. Well, I think I abstain just because I don't have enough information at the moment. But it doesn't matter because the resolution 7351 has been postponed to August 4th by a vote of 4 with 1 abstention. Thank you.
Would it be 5-0 with 1 abstention?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it's 5.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you.
Thank
I just wasn't ready to make that vote yet. But yeah, thank you. All right. That is now moved to August 4th. All right, last thing on our agenda is next steps and future board meeting topics. I already have a work session on contracts planned at some, TBD. And then if there's any other items that you would like to request on a future agenda item, please indicate that now.
Is our executive session on August 4th, is that for the review process for the OIPA?
I think I was working with Director Sullivan, who I think is not able to attend that meeting. So I think it's probably going to be on the following.
It's going to be for what? The RSJ?
No,
the
for
OIPA process for evaluation. Yes, I
Staff
think
evaluation for the auditor.
Yeah. So discussion of
I
the
don't
process
yeah.
for evaluation, that executive session, I think is scheduled for August 18th.
Okay, that would be my one thing, but I was gonna say, I think that we talked about it, that is on my list.
Okay.
Just for the dates, I just want to make sure you all probably have the save the date for this. But the board meeting, August 4th, is the day before the school year launch at Leadership that board traditionally attends. And it's going to be at Benson High School, and it's going to be around 8 to 8:30 in the morning. And so as you're thinking of time, if you all were still going to attend, which I really hope that you do, the timing for the board meeting, I mean, you all might want to take that into consideration as you think of that long agenda. For those of you who were planning on being at Benson early Wednesday morning.
Do you know what time it's at off the top of your head, Kimberly?
We're gonna start seating probably around 8 a.m. And so yeah, the program will start around 8 ish, and then I think my address will be around 8:30. But we typically have student performances and an introduction of the board. We'll have principals, assistant principals, district admin, as well as ILT members, instructional leadership team members from schools. And so we'll have probably about 600 to 700 people. And I didn't realize that that board meeting is that day before that. So I want to be mindful of that for everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. That's a week-long institute, right?
It is. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know when you all were doing the calendar last year, or for this upcoming year, I don't know if I had an opportunity to speak with you all about like just some of the dates and things of like availability of people. And so this year, when you all look to do those days, I'm really looking forward to being in conversation, so that I can make sure that we have a full team available to support and that you all are able to also attend important events.
Thank you. The board has actually performed on stage at that in the past. I'm just saying maybe that doesn't happen this year, but it's very memorable.
Yes, I'd love for you all to have an active role. We can talk offline about that.
No.
So, yeah, I think my first move as chair was to veto that. Yeah.
Yes. Second.
I'm always open.
Okay, always open. Yeah. All right, and my first move this year will probably be to veto that again. Yeah, is there anything else?
I just want to let you know, I think most people know, Dr. Adams will be presenting the RESJ contracts on our meeting on September 1st.
September 1st.
So we moved it from the 18th to the 1st.
I saw that email. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have August 18th, executive session. And then the contract work session. So that we'll try to fit that in the most appropriate time. All right, if there's nothing else, correct? All right, thank you everyone for being here tonight and spending your Tuesday, July. Hope have a good July and take the break if you can. All right, this meeting is adjourned. See y'all later.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.